Chapter 1535 Fraud. Chapter 1535 Fraud. 1535 Fraud. A full year had passed since Tian Qiyuan began his God of Creation ceremony, and he had crafted 10 celestial-grade treasures within 10 attempts, meaning he hadn't failed once since he started. More and more people became skeptical and doubted his legitimacy. Yet, no one could figure out his methods, and continued to watch in amazement as Tian Qiyuan showcased his unfathomable prowess. Fuck. How the hell is he doing this? I refuse to believe that he's doing this without any tricks. Fiery Heaven Blacksmith began biting his nails in frustration as he continued to analyze every movement Tian Qiyuan made to expose his tricks, but to no avail. He couldn't fathom how Tian Qiyuan was refining the materials so quickly and how he would successfully craft a celestial-grade treasure every time. As Tian Qiyuan continued to defy all logic and common sense, the God of Creation ceremony entered its third year. Tian Qiyuan kept his ridiculous pace by producing a celestial-grade treasure nearly every month, reaching 22 celestial-grade treasures by the end of the second year. Of course, his 100% success rate remained, and he had 78 attempts left to defeat the current God of Creation's record of 40. Tian Qiyuan's flawless performance left the God of Creation deeply perplexed. On one hand, he wanted to believe in Tian Qiyuan's talent. On the other hand, it was almost too extraordinary to accept, even though he couldn't find any fault in Tian Qiyuan's work. However, it made absolutely zero sense for Tian Qiyuan to cheat before so many people and in such an obvious manner, no less. If one wanted to cheat, it shouldn't be so exaggerated and obvious. Tian Qiyuan himself had an unshakable reputation throughout the years. While everybody was suspicious of his skills at first, he quickly proved himself to be the real deal, not to mention the competition he participated in for the Void Meteoroid Core. If his talents are truly real and not fabricated, this world might not be ready for someone like him. God of Creation sighed inwardly. After another 2 years, Tian Qiyuan approached the God of Creation's record of 40. Although his crafting speed had slowed down slightly, it was still outrageously fast. Ding, ding, clang. Tian Qiyuan successfully crafted his 40th treasure on his 40th attempt. Unless he failed to create a single treasure within the next 60 attempts, it was essentially certain that Tian Qiyuan would become the next God of Creation. A month later, nobody was surprised when Tian Qiyuan created his 41st treasure. Good heavens, what in heaven's name is happening? Is this even real? Even if he fails to create a single treasure with the rest of his attempts, he's already smashed the previous record with an unprecedented 41 treasures in a row. Do you think the God of Creation will accept this result? He might argue it's an unofficial ceremony. With so many witnesses, even heaven itself would not dare to deny Exalted Blacksmith's achievement because of some arbitrary rule made up by the ancient Anvil Association. I kind of pity the God of Creation. He's only held on to that title for 10,000 years, which is probably the shortest time someone has sat in that position. Exalted Blacksmith still has to defeat the God of Creation in a one-on-one match to acquire his title officially, right? Nothing is guaranteed. Someone said. Are you blind? Even the God of Creation cannot craft more than 3 celestial-grade treasures in a row, much less 41. I'd be surprised if he doesn't hand over his title without the match since the outcome is already obvious. The God of Creation would lose more face if he were to participate in such an obvious match than just to hand over his title, since that would show his denial. And I would not be surprised if it turns out the Exalted Blacksmith has been cheating this entire time. His talents are too good to be true. He's just way ahead of his time, that's all. Also, how can he cheat with so many expert blacksmiths around? There's no way he hasn't been exposed already if that were the case. The audience continued to argue with each other regarding the legitimacy of Tian Qiyuan's ceremony. Once Tian Qiyuan crafted his 50th treasure, his speed slowed down to a treasure every 2 months instead of 1. 60, 70, 80. Tian Qiyuan crafted his 80th celestial-grade treasure in a row 6 years later. By now, the audience had grown numb and was no longer shocked. They only had one thing in their mind: whether Tian Qiyuan would become the first person in history to craft 100 celestial-grade treasures in a row or not. Tian Qiyuan's speed slowed down again after his 80th treasure. Instead of taking 2 to 3 months to craft a treasure, he needed 5 to 7 months. 10 years later, Tian Qiyuan used his final attempt to craft the 100th treasure. The audience held their breaths as they prepared to witness history being made right in front of their very eyes. As Tian Qiyuan formed the shape of the final treasure, nearly everybody in the upper heavens had their eyes on him. It's a sword. His final treasure is a sword. Ding, clang, ding, 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 ding. After spending an entire year on his final treasure, Tian Qiyuan successfully crafted his 100th treasure, becoming the first ever individual to perform a flawless God of Creation ceremony. The audience erupted with cheers, but there were also many who still doubted the legitimacy of his performance. Exalted Blacksmith, you fucking fraud. Do you really expect us to believe that you had crafted 100 celestial-grade treasures in a row? Fiery Heaven Blacksmith was the loudest with the curses. If you're going to bullshit, at least make it believable. I cannot believe I wasted so much time watching this nonsense. Fraud. 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 Of course, the Ancient Anvil Association had planted some of its own people within the crowd to oppose Tian Qiyuan and discredit him. Where is the proof that he's a fraud? Everyone saw his performance, but nobody could prove that he was cheating. Right? I didn't see anything suspicious, and I watched the entire ceremony without blinking. Surely you have something to say about this God of Creation. Fiery Heaven Blacksmith suddenly turned to look at him. The audience temporarily became silent as they waited for the God of Creation's response. God of Creation quietly sat in his seat with a pondering expression on his face. Had watched the entire ceremony from beginning to end without missing a thing, yet he couldn't find anything that would expose Tian Qiyuan as a cheater. However, his own pride and experience couldn't accept the fact that Tian Qiyuan had such unfathomable capabilities. After a long moment of silence, the God of Creation solemnly spoke as he stared at Tian Qiyuan's figure. Although I did not see anything suspicious during the ceremony, nor can I prove that Head cheated, common sense tells me that what Head done is simply impossible. Exalted Blacksmith, you disappoint me. I thought you were someone of integrity and respected you, but to do something like this during the sacred God of Creation ceremony, you've committed blasphemy. Why, you can't be serious. Xian was the first to respond to God of Creation's verdict. However, once the God of Creation gave his verdict, nobody dared to refute him, even if they believed in Tian Qiyuan. Despite being called a fraud, Tian Qiyuan did not show any signs of anger and remained tranquil. He responded a moment later, "Are you really that reluctant to hand over your title? I don't blame you though, since you only got to enjoy it for a short 10,000 years. Don't worry. I don't care enough about the title to fight you for it anyway. The only reason I performed this ceremony was for my own satisfaction. It would have been nice if I was recognized as the God of Creation, but whether I have such a title or not won't have any effect on my capabilities as a blacksmith. As a matter of fact, I do not need anyone's approval. I don't craft treasures to prove myself. I do it because I enjoy it and it benefits me. To those of you who still believe in me and recognize me as the next God of Creation, thank you. Unfortunately, it appears that I am not destined to be the next God of Creation." Tian Qiyuan waved his sleeves, collecting all 100 celestial-grade treasures. "Anyway, call me a fraud if you want. You may be able to deceive yourself and even the world, but as long as you can't prove that I cheated, you won't be able to get rid of that doubt hidden deep within your soul, and you'll eventually be consumed by it." After saying such words, Tian Qiyuan vanished into thin air before everyone's eyes like a ghost, leaving the entire world speechless. Shortly after Tian Qiyuan's disappearance, the Ancient Anvil Association showed up at the Grand Elder Summit to further smear Tian Qiyuan's image. As you have all witnessed, Exalted Blacksmith is a fraud that cannot be trusted. Not only did he slander our association with false claims, but he even dared to commit blasphemy during the God of Creation ceremony. Yao Tao said, "Our Ancient Anvil Association has known about this for a long time now, hence why we refuse to recognize him as an official blacksmith. We haven't said anything until now because we need solid proof to expose him. I shall repeat this once again, Exalted Blacksmith is a fraud." Yeah, he's a fraud. I cannot believe I had spent so much money purchasing his weapons before. Fuck. I also commissioned him for a weapon. He'll destroy that thing once I get home. After the ceremony, the Ancient Anvil Association, supported by the God of Creation, spread the news of Tian Qiyuan being a fraud throughout the 9 heavens, sending shockwaves through the realms and leaving all of his fans in disbelief. Chapter 1536 Crafting the Masterpiece. Chapter 1536 Crafting the Masterpiece. 1536 Crafting the Masterpiece. Hold on to your anvils, folks. I've got a shocking revelation for you. The Exalted Blacksmith has been unmasked as a fraud. Don't miss this breaking news. A streetwise informant bellowed, drawing a throng of curious onlookers. What? Exalted Blacksmith is a fraud? How is that possible? It's true. The Ancient Anvil Association and even the revered God of Creation have already declared the Exalted Blacksmith to be a fraud. In fact, Exalted Blacksmith was never even an official blacksmith to begin with. The Exalted Blacksmith not only committed blasphemy during the God of Creation ceremony by cheating, but all of his creations are not even his. What kind of nonsense are you sprouting? How can someone cheat in the God of Creation ceremony? And many have watched him craft treasures. I heard about this. However, nobody at the ceremony could actually prove that the Exalted Blacksmith had cheated during his ceremony. Someone defended Tian. I was present at the ceremony, and I didn't notice anything unusual, let alone cheating. It's possible that the Exalted Blacksmith is being unfairly accused due to envy of his skills. Another voice chimed in, offering a different viewpoint. The Exalted Blacksmith called out the Ancient Anvil Association before the ceremony began, so they have a motive. As for the God of Creation, he probably just didn't want to hand over his title so soon after acquiring it. Not everyone believed the rumors, but the God of Creation and the Ancient Anvil Association wielded immense influence. Challenging them meant risking their ire and losing access to their invaluable services, making it wiser for most to remain silent. Because of this, most of the families and sects in the upper heavens remained silent, allowing such rumors to continue spreading like wildfire. With nobody truly influential stepping forward to refute these rumors, more and more people started believing it. Eventually, the rumor was no longer just a rumor and turned into a fact. The Ancient Anvil Association also invested tremendous resources and effort into ensuring that Tian became and remained a fraud. With the God of Creation backing them, almost nothing could stop them from branding Tian as a fraud. And in just a few hundred years, it became common knowledge that Tian was a fraud who managed to become a divine blacksmith by fooling the world. God of Creation. I am disappointed in you. A face that the God of Creation hadn't seen in a while suddenly showed up to say such words in private. What are you talking about, heaven and earth blacksmith? God of Creation responded in a nonchalant tone. You know what I am talking about? For the sake of that title, you've forsaken your own dignity and collaborated with the Ancient Anvil Association to slander Exalted Blacksmith, who performed a flawless God of Creation ceremony. Because of you, we've lost a prodigy that might never appear in this world again. You actually believe that Head performed a flawless ceremony? It's impossible to have a 100% success rate for celestial-grade treasures, not to mention the speed at which he was crafting them. Even if there is no solid evidence, the abnormal result is enough to convince me that Head cheated. It's just common sense, plain and simple. There was no change in his tone as the God of Creation remained adamant on his own beliefs. Since when did common sense apply to true prodigies, monsters? Anyway, I have said what I wanted to say, so I am leaving now. However, God of Creation stopped him and said, if you're so convinced that he's legitimate, why haven't you said anything about it? I am aware that I do not have the power to convince the public alone, hence why I am here speaking to you personally. I should have said something on that very day, but just like you, I was overwhelmed by his otherworldly performance and became blinded with envy. In truth, I have no right to say these things to you since I am just as guilty, and I can hardly raise my hammer nowadays because it carries the weight of my guilt. I wish the best of luck to you in your future endeavors, God of Creation. Heaven and Earth Blacksmith left shortly after without looking back. A few years later, Heaven and Earth Blacksmith shocked the world with an unexpected retirement announcement. Why did the Heaven and Earth Blacksmith suddenly announce his retirement? He still has one more attempt at the God of Creation ceremony, right? It might have something to do with what happened to Exalted Blacksmith. Were they even close enough for Heaven and Earth Blacksmith to do such a thing for him? Who knows, but we've lost 2 divine blacksmiths in less than 1,000 years now. After Heaven and Earth Blacksmith's visit and sudden retirement, the God of Creation began to come to his senses, and as if he had been cursed by Heaven and Earth Blacksmith, his hammer became heavier with each passing day. What have I done? God of Creation eventually realized his faults, but it was already too late to change anything, and the damages were already done. Meanwhile, the Exalted Blacksmith hasn't made an appearance since his God of Creation ceremony, almost as if Head vanished from the world. In reality, Tian was hard at work inside his own world, preparing for his masterpiece. Xuan visited him a few years after his ceremony. Although she had planned on visiting sooner, she had to deal with some problems first. When she arrived at his world, she was surprised to see Tian working by the anvil as usual. Ichem? Hello Xuan. It's been a few years. Am I a fraud to the entire world yet? Tian asked her with a calm smile on his face. Xuan frowned at his question and said, how can you act so calm in this situation? And yes, the ancient Anvil Association, God of Creation, and Fiery Heaven Blacksmith are hard at work trying to brand you as a fraud. They're even going as far as trying to destroy your creations. Why aren't you even attempting to defend your own image? Are you going to let them continue slandering you like this? It's too much of a hassle. The Exalted Blacksmith was the perfect persona for me to collect the materials I needed for my true ambition. Now that I have collected everything I need for my masterpiece, I couldn't care less about what happened to it afterward. In fact, I intended to disappear from the world quietly after collecting the materials. Tian Qiyuan shrugged. He didn't think it was worth it trying to save a persona had already intended to throw away. However, Xuan had a different thought in mind. No. You may not care about that persona, but it's important to me. It's the identity of my first love, and I will not allow anyone to trample on it. Xuan did not stay for long and left in a hurry. Tian Qiyuan didn't think too much about it and continued his preparations. Several thousand years later, Tian Qiyuan was almost finished with his preparations. He knew that Xuan would want to experience the creation of his masterpiece, so he contacted her through her communication jade slip. I will soon craft my masterpiece. You know where to find me. They'll wait for you, but I can't wait too long since the materials are already prepared and will eventually start losing quality if I don't use them. After sending her this message, Tian Qiyuan waited for her arrival. 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years passed, but Xuan never showed up. Tian Qiyuan wanted to look for her, but had already wasted too much time and needed to craft the treasure as soon as possible. She's probably in seclusion or something. I'll look for her after I finish my work. Feng. It's time. Let's get started. Tian Qiyuan called out to her. Feng Qianru appeared shortly after, with her body raining flames. God of War's astral arts. Tian Qiyuan summoned a massive avatar that wielded hammers in both hands, which he used to strike the anvil alongside his own hammer. Even though it would only take him a month to craft a celestial-grade treasure, Tian Qiyuan ended up spending over 100 years straight hammering at the anvil. All of the rare materials had painstakingly collected throughout the years, enough to buy an entire realm, were used for this one treasure. Once he was finished with the treasure, which took the form of a great sword, he left his world to find Xuan. The first and most obvious place he visited to find information on Xuan was the unrivaled Nine-Sword sect. However, when he showed up at the sect, nobody recognized him. Since Tian Qiyuan had no intentions of continuing his persona as the Exalted Blacksmith, he no longer had any reason to hide his face and showed up to the sect without his mask. I'm a friend of Lady Xuan. Do you know where I can find her? He asked one of their disciples. You're looking for the sword goddess? The disciple suddenly wore a stiff expression after being questioned about her. He then said, I'm sorry, but the sword goddess hasn't been affiliated with the unrivaled Nine-Sword sect since she was exiled from the sect several centuries ago. What? She'd been exiled from the unrivaled Nine-Sword sect? How did such a thing happen? Tian Qiyuan was greatly shocked by this news and immediately inquired for more information. Chapter 1537 Gone Rogue. Chapter 1537 Gone Rogue. 1537 Gone Rogue? How are you not aware of her situation? It caused quite the scene around the world when it happened. Are you really her friend? The disciple doubted Tian Qiyuan being Xuan's friend. I was in seclusion for a long time and only recently emerged, so I am still unaware of many things. If you enlighten me, you'll make it worth your time. Tian Qiyuan proceeded to take out an ancient-grade sword and dangled it in front of the disciple like a carrot on a stick. The disciple's eyes immediately flickered when he saw this. He never thought he would be able to acquire an ancient-grade sword just by answering some questions. He'll tell you everything you want to know, senior. You can start by telling why Xuan was exiled. That's because she'd gone rouge and went on a killing spree, becoming a mass murderer. If the unrivaled Nine-Sword sect hadn't exiled her, it would have dragged all of us down with her. What? Xuan became a mass murderer? Surely there must have been a mistake. I've known her for thousands of years. She wouldn't do something like that without a good reason. Tian Qiyuan's eyes widened at this shocking revelation. He knew Xuan was an eccentric individual, but she was definitely no mass murderer. If she killed someone, she definitely would have a good reason for doing so. It's true, senior. The sword goddess went on a rampage against those who slandered the Exalted Blacksmith, especially the ancient Anvil Association. If anyone dared to slander the Exalted Blacksmith openly, she would show up at their door and slaughter them like pigs. Huh? Tian Qiyuan's eyes widened for a second time, as he could totally see Xuan doing such a thing for him as the Exalted Blacksmith fanatic. Shed killed thousands of people throughout the years, killed 2 of the ancient Anvil Association elders, and even crippled the Fiery Heaven Blacksmith, to the point where he could no longer wield a hammer properly. Due to her actions, she was branded as an evil cultivator and was given a bounty. She would have probably gone for the god of creation's throat if he weren't so much stronger than her. Anyway, after being branded as an evil cultivator and given a bounty, the sword goddess became the hunted. If the unrivaled Nine-Sword sect hadn't exiled her, we would have been branded as accomplices and also become the world's enemy. I understand her situation, and I have another question. Is she dead? Tian Qiyuan wore a grim expression on his face as he asked this serious question. Although they never acknowledged each other as lovers, they were certainly more than just friends and had shared moments that only lovers would. Tian Qiyuan would be lying to himself if he said he didn't have any feelings for her. Last I heard, they managed to destroy her physical body but failed to secure her soul and allowed her to escape. That was about 20 years ago. I haven't heard anything about it since then. So she could still be out there, how? Last question. Who destroyed her body? That would be Fiery Heaven Blacksmith. Of course, he had help from the Ancient Anvil Association and several other parties. Thank you. As promised, I will compensate you for your time. Tian Qiyuan handed him the sword and quickly left the scene. His next objective was to locate Fiery Heaven Blacksmith, which didn't take long at all. After being crippled by Xuan, Fiery Heaven Blacksmith retired as a blacksmith and became a famous playboy who frequented brothels and whatnot. After asking around, Tian Qiyuan found Fiery Heaven Blacksmith at the Thousand Fairy Sky Pavilion, surrounded by dozens of beauties as they fed him fruits and drinks. Tian Qiyuan examined Fiery Heaven Blacksmith's body to see how crippled he was. Fiery Heaven Blacksmith looked healthy at a glance, but once someone noticed the condition of his hands, they would immediately understand why he had to retire as a blacksmith. His hands not only lacked fingers, but the hands themselves appeared squashed, resembling that of meat paste. Normally, a cultivator at his level would be able to heal such injuries even without the help of medicine. Unfortunately for him, Xuan had struck him with a sword that caused permanent damage and blocked the effects of all healing medicine. This sword was something Tian Qiyuan crafted himself, and he knew at a glance from Fiery Heaven Blacksmith's injuries that Shed used that sword on him. Unless Fiery Heaven Blacksmith destroyed his crippled body and reconstructed it from scratch, he would have no way of recovering from his injuries fully. However, such a method was easier said than done. Rebuilding his newly constructed body to its current level would require tremendous effort and take hundreds of thousands of years. Fiery Heaven Blacksmith did not bother rebuilding his body since he had already lost all motivation and passion for smithing after Eternal Blacksmith became the god of creation. Once he was done examining Fiery Heaven Blacksmith, Tian Qiyuan approached him. "Hey you bastard, are you blind?" Fiery Heaven Blacksmith cursed at him before he could even get too close. "Can't you see that I am busy enjoying myself here? Your presence is affecting the atmosphere. Get lost before I kill." Before Fiery Heaven Blacksmith could even finish his sentence, Tian Qiyuan retrieved the masterpiece he had recently completed and swung it. Even though Fiery Heaven Blacksmith could follow Tian Qiyuan's movements, his body was not fast enough to react to it, and before he realized it, his physical body had been destroyed. Ah! Murderer! The ladies around them screamed in terror. However, Tian Qiyuan did not kill Fiery Heaven Blacksmith, who was now a bodiless soul. "Why you fucking bastard? Who do you think I am? How dare you do this too?" Fiery Heaven Blacksmith failed to finish his sentence a second time, but it was not because of Tian Qiyuan. When Fiery Heaven Blacksmith subconsciously laid eyes on the sword in Tian Qiyuan's grasp after being attracted by its aura, he was struck with such profound bewilderment that words utterly failed him. As a divine blacksmith, had seen all sorts of treasures in this world. However, had never seen a treasure like the sword before him at this very moment. While he couldn't tell exactly what it was made of, he instinctively knew that it was something otherworldly, something this world had never seen before. If he had to describe the treasure, it would be flawless and without equal. Tian Qiyuan noticed that Fiery Heaven Blacksmith was ensnared by his sword and smiled. "Are you interested in this?" He extended his sword to give Fiery Heaven Blacksmith a better look. Where did you acquire such a treasure? Is it a natural treasure or is it someone's creation?" Fiery Heaven Blacksmith asked, pretending as if Tian Qiyuan hadn't destroyed his physical body a moment ago. Despite losing his passion as a blacksmith and retiring as one, he was still one at heart. Tian Qiyuan shrugged and said, "I don't know. I found it lying on the street and picked it up. And without saying another word, Tian Qiyuan vanished from the scene like a ghost, leaving Fiery Heaven Blacksmith utterly speechless and confused. His purpose for visiting Fiery Heaven Blacksmith was solely to punish him for destroying Zixian's physical body. Had thought about destroying Fiery Heaven Blacksmith's soul, killing him permanently. However, when Tian Qiyuan saw how interested Fiery Heaven Blacksmith was in his weapon, Tian Qiyuan decided to torture him with curiosity. Sure enough, Fiery Heaven Blacksmith's encounter with Tian Qiyuan's sword left a profound and everlasting impression on him, sparking an intense desire to create something of comparable brilliance. His passion for the art reignited, and Fiery Heaven Blacksmith announced his return as a blacksmith after reconstructing his new physical body. He used his memories to study Tian Qiyuan's sword, but no matter how much he tried, he was unable to comprehend it. Eventually, he gave up trying to understand it and began attempting to replicate it. Alas, nothing he crafted came even close to matching the quality of Tian Qiyuan's sword, even after millions of attempts. If only I could see that sword one more time. If only I had looked at it for a little longer back then. His infatuation eventually turned him into a madman who traveled the 9 heavens in search of Tian Qiyuan and his sword. Meanwhile, Tian Qiyuan visited the Ancient Anvil Association and flaunted his sword to the experts there, leaving all of them absolutely gobsmacked. To the untrained eye, Tian Qiyuan's sword appeared to be a high-quality sword and nothing more. However, to expert blacksmiths, it was nothing short of a miracle, the true pinnacle of craftsmanship that surpassed common sense and defied all logic, as if it embodied the very essence and secrets of the art of smithing. The experts there begged Tian Qiyuan to let them examine the treasure, but Tian Qiyuan refused even to let them touch his sword. This drove all of the experts there mad, especially Yao Tao, who actually lost control of his emotions and attacked Tian Qiyuan in an attempt to steal the sword. However, Tian Qiyuan easily stopped Yao Tao in his tracks, even destroying his physical body in the process. Then, without another word, Tian Qiyuan vanished into thin air. Soon, rumors of a mysterious man with a perfect sword spread throughout the community like wildfire. It was a sword that surpassed even celestial-grade treasures. It was not something created by man but by a god, one that surpasses even the god of creation. These rumors eventually reached the god of creation, immediately piquing his interest. Chapter 1538 Pinnacle of Treasures. Chapter 1538 Pinnacle of Treasures. 1538 Pinnacle of Treasures. A mysterious man carrying around a sort of unfathomable quality that is described as the pinnacle of treasures by those who witnessed it. God of creation muttered to himself after hearing the recent rumors. As a blacksmith, he was more interested in the sword than the individual with it. Eventually, he could no longer contain his curiosity and began a journey to find the mysterious man with the so-called pinnacle of treasures. He visited those who had seen the sword to see if he could learn anything about this mysterious man or find any clues that would lead to him. Unfortunately, he could only acquire insubstantial information. He was a tall and handsome man. I have never seen him before, but he had a powerful aura around him. I believe he was an expert. He was definitely an expert. I don't know how much his sword contributed to his strength, but he managed to obliterate Yao Tao of the Ancient Anvil Association with a single blow. His sword matched the length of his body, its blade predominantly black with hints of gold woven in. Although its appearance wasn't extravagant, its quality was undeniably otherworldly, one of the witnesses recalled, their voice filled with reverence. If a grade existed above celestial grade, that sword would definitely be in that category, or two above it. That's just how perfect it was. As the god of creation heard more about this flawless sword, his desire to see it with his own eyes intensified. The god of creation, driven by an insatiable desire, eventually placed a bounty on both the man and the sword, offering vast fortunes to anyone who could lead him to either. To the man himself, he promised untold riches and treasures beyond imagination should he present the sword in person. This announcement reverberated through the realms, igniting a fervent hunt that spanned across the 9 heavens. However, no matter how much people searched, they were unable to find any traces of the man or the sword, as if had vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, Tian Qiyuan went to look for Zixian's soul after messing with the Ancient Anvil Association. The first place he looked was the secret entrance to her world in the 8th heaven. After traveling to the 8th heaven and arriving at his destination, he found that the entrance had vanished and was no longer there. She probably couldn't handle opening too many entrances to her world after losing her physical body. Unfortunately, this was the only entrance to her world that he knew of, and he doubted anyone who wasn't Zixian would know of another entrance. If I cannot find her, he'll let her find me. Tian Qiyuan could only think of one way to attract Xuan. Although he had already tossed away the identity as the Exalted Blacksmith, if it could help Xuan's situation, he would not hesitate to become the Exalted Blacksmith again. There was a chance that Xuan might eventually show up in his world, but he didn't know how long that would take or if she'd want to trouble him with her presence. Since she acted to clear my name, I should do just that, clear my name. However, he didn't know where to start. The Ancient Anvil Association had already convinced the entire world that he was a fraud. If he appeared out of the blue to clear his name after ignoring it for so long, it would only have the opposite effect. In the end, he decided to return to his world to think of a plan. He also hoped that Xuan would suddenly show up in his world like she often does. Unbeknownst to him, Xuan had already caught wind of the rumors surrounding the peerless sword. The moment she heard about it, her thoughts immediately turned to Tian Qiyuan. In all the heavens, there was only one individual capable of crafting such a masterpiece. So he's achieved his ambitions. It's a pity that I missed the process and I really want to see the sword with my own eyes, but alas, I don't think I can visit him while in this condition. She feared that Tian Qiyuan would disapprove of her methods of trying to clear his name, as she'd gone to the extreme. However, even if it caused him to hate her, she would not stop until she cleared his name. Once I reconstruct my body and regain enough strength, I will launch a full attack on the Ancient Anvil Association. Then I will deal with Fiery Heaven Blacksmith once and for all. Since I am not strong enough to deal with the God of Creation yet, I'll save him for last. A few years later, Tian Qiyuan appeared in the world again, carrying on his back a beautiful black and golden sword. Once people started realizing his identity as the mysterious man with the flawless sword, they immediately notified the God of Creation of his whereabouts. When the God of Creation received this news, he stopped whatever he was doing and flew directly to the location given to him. Surprisingly, it was the Grand Elder Summit. The Grand Elder Summit, huh? I haven't been to this place since that incident. The God of Creation mumbled to himself as he approached the place. As for Tian Qiyuan, he quietly cultivated at the peak of the summit, where competitions usually took place. It was also where he performed his God of Creation ceremony. Although he was surrounded by a crowd, mostly blacksmiths, none dared to approach him. They had all heard of what he had done to Yao Tao. Instead, they merely inspected the sword resting on his lap with awe in their eyes. The rumors were true. That is truly a flawless sword. The pinnacle of treasures. Heavens? Who is that man? Do you think he created it? Omicronum, there's no way a nobody could have crafted such a treasure. I doubt even the heavens have the capabilities to do so. The blacksmiths stared at the sword with mouths agape, their eyes brimming with wonder and reverence as if they stood before their god. Chapter 1539 Exalted Blacksmith's Return. Chapter 1539 Exalted Blacksmith's Return 1539 Exalted Blacksmith's Return. Excuse me, can you tell us your name? One of the blacksmiths surrounding Tian Qiyuan, like a group of hungry pigeons, suddenly asked him. Tian Qiyuan looked at the man who just spoke and calmly responded, Tian Qiyuan. Tian Qiyuan? It sounds familiar, but I can't remember where I heard such a name before. I also find it very familiar too. Me too. None of the people there recognized his name at first, but it definitely sounded familiar to them. God of Creation showed up shortly after, but nobody there managed to remember where they heard his name. During his time as the Exalted Blacksmith, Tian Qiyuan rarely mentioned his name, only doing so during his earlier days as the Exalted Blacksmith, hence why nobody there could recall it. When the people there noticed the God of Creation descending to the Grand Elder Summit, they all made room for his landing. God of Creation touched the ground a moment later, landing right before Tian Qiyuan. However, the God of Creation didn't utter a word even many minutes after his arrival, filling the atmosphere with an awkward silence. With a nonchalant expression on his face, his eyes were fixated on the sword on Tian Qiyuan's lap. Yet, if one looked closely, one would notice the God of Creation's eyebrows occasionally twitching. God of Creation eventually opened his mouth to speak. Who created that sword? Even the expert blacksmiths present struggled to discern whether the sword was a crafted masterpiece or a natural wonder born from the essence of the world itself, but the God of Creation could tell that it was the former. Had seen all kinds of treasures in the world, including the best treasures in the world. However, none of them could even begin to compare to the sword in front of him at this very moment. He initially believed the rumors about the sword were exaggerations, but upon seeing it with his own eyes, he realized they had, in fact, underestimated its true value and miraculous nature. Does it really matter who crafted it? Tian Qiyuan responded. Of course it does. He quickly answered. And what are you going to do with that knowledge, God of creation? Are you going to give them your position? What? That's... God of creation immediately fell silent. Whoever crafted this sword definitely had the skills to replace him, but he didn't dare to utter such words out loud. Wait, your voice. God of creation suddenly had a moment of realization and wore a look of disbelief on his face. You can't be. Tian Qiyuan stood up and said, this sword was crafted by none other than yours truly, Tian Qiyuan. Exalted Blacksmith. God of creation muttered in a shocked tone, feeling all sorts of emotions rushing into him. What? Exalted Blacksmith? The fraud of the era? Everyone there was left speechless after finally realizing Tian Qiyuan's true identity. But he's not wearing a mask. What does this mean? Why would he expose his face like this? His only saving grace was his unknown identity. Forget about all that. He just claimed to be the creator of that flawless sword. If anyone could craft a sword, it would be someone who performed a flawless God of creation ceremony. I've always known that he was innocent. Is this the return of the Exalted Blacksmith? Why are you all so quick to believe him? He's a fraud. Someone shouted, their voice cutting through the murmurs of admiration. That's right. He's a fraud. That sword is probably fake too. A fraud, huh? Tian Qiyuan suddenly chuckled. What's so funny? Oh, it's nothing serious. I just find your stupidity quite funny, so I cracked a chuckle. What do you think, God of creation? Do you also think my sword is fake because it's too perfect, just like my God of creation ceremony? I am, by your words, a fraud after all. God of creation gritted his teeth and clenched his fists at Tian Qiyuan's words, but he could not find a proper response. Deep down he knew the truth. He wanted to refute him, but having already acknowledged his own faults privately, he understood that continuing to deceive himself and slander Tian Qiyuan would render him truly irredeemable. After a moment of silence, God of creation spoke. Let's have a match, Exalted Blacksmith. That's quite sudden, but I never shy away from a challenge. What do you have in mind? We will both perform the God of creation ceremony again, a slightly modified version of it, and at the same time. For this ceremony, we will be crafting specific treasures to ensure that cheating is impossible. Of course, I will also be providing the materials. Tian Qiyuan quickly agreed. It's a bit of a hassle, but he'll do it. However, let's make it more interesting. The winner will have to give up on their most valuable possession. In my case, it would be this sword. If you can beat me, I will give you this sword. Tian Qiyuan held the sword in front of him with a confident aura surrounding him. The God of creation swallowed nervously at this enticing offer. However, he had nothing in his possession that could possibly match the sword. Even if he were to give up his title and his entire fortune, it would not be able to compare with the sword. After pondering for a moment, he said, I shall give you my life. The God of creation's response surprised not just Tian Qiyuan but also left the crowd speechless. What are you trying to achieve? Atone for your crimes of slandering me? Tian Qiyuan asked, his voice laced with curiosity. I'll give you an answer if you can defeat me. Very well. And a heads up, I have no intention of stopping you if you truly want to give up your life because I have no sympathy for those who wronged me, so be prepared to die once you lose to me. Tian Qiyuan said. The God of creation calmly nodded, seemingly undisturbed by his words. Then he'll give you the date and location of our match later, he said the following moment. Chapter 1540 Unparalleled Speed. Chapter 1540 Unparalleled Speed 1540 Unparalleled Speed. News of Tian Qiyuan's return and his upcoming match with the God of creation spread through the 9 heavens like wildfire, igniting curiosity and excitement among cultivators and blacksmiths alike. What? The Exalted Blacksmith has returned? What happened to him being a fraud? I guess that's why the God of creation challenged him to a match, to determine whether he is truly a fraud or not. The Exalted Blacksmith revealed his identity? How do we know that he's not in disguise? So the Exalted Blacksmith is the creator of the flawless sword. It all makes sense now. A few weeks later, the God of creation announced the time and place for their competition. Our match will take place at the Astral Holy Grounds exactly 10 years from now. There will be no time for preparations once the God of creation ceremony begins, but you have 10 years to prepare. Tian Qiyuan acknowledged the match and vanished from the world for the next 10 years. As Tian Qiyuan's match with the God of creation grew closer, countless influential figures and powerful backgrounds made their way to the Astral Holy Grounds. The astral holy grounds, a unique location beyond the nine heavens, was accessible only to those capable of traversing the starry sky, making attendance at their match a rare privilege reserved for the most powerful or resourceful cultivators. Fortunately for those unable to travel but eager to witness the historic event, a special treasure would broadcast the match to the entire world, ensuring everyone could watch the legendary match unfold. When Tian Qiyuan arrived at the astral holy grounds, he was greeted by a massive sea of influential people. No matter where he looked, he would recognize at least several of them with a glance. Hell, even the Celestial Emperor was present. Of course, the ancient Anvil Association and Yao Tao with his new physical body were also there. When Yao Tao sensed Tian Qiyuan's gaze on him, his body instinctively reacted, trembling in fear. Sometime later, Tian Qiyuan and the god of creation approached the large area where their stations had already been prepared. Before they started the match, the Celestial Emperor entered the stage as an announcer and said, "We have all gathered here today to witness the god of creation and Exalted Blacksmith's competition. Both contestants will be performing a slightly altered version of the god of creation ceremony. Just like the original ceremony, they have 100 attempts to craft as many celestial-grade treasures as they can. However, they both must craft the treasure using the materials provided to them, so they cannot craft whatever they want. In the God of Creation ceremony, participants could craft any treasures they desired from the materials they selected and choose the type of weapon they desired to make. This flexibility made the traditional ceremony less challenging than the altered version, where they were restricted on the materials they used, as well as the type of treasures they could craft from them. Before we begin this competition, our contestants will give a brief speech. The god of creation stepped forward and began speaking after the Celestial Emperor gave him a nod. I will keep my speech brief. As some, if not most of you have already heard, if I lose this match I will forfeit my life. You may be wondering why I decided to gamble my life in such a manner. There are several reasons, but I will only tell you one. If Exalted Blacksmith defeats me, it means he was not a fraud and I was mistaken the entire time. To slander someone who performed a flawless god of creation ceremony, I can only atone with my life. The spectators immediately began mumbling to each other. If the Exalted Blacksmith turns out to be innocent and his god of creation ceremony was legit, the Ancient Anvil Association is done for. Nobody will ever trust them again. The Exalted Blacksmith is definitely innocent. I've believed in him since day one. Tian Qiyuan spoke next. I only have one reason for accepting his challenge, to prove my innocence. If I lose this competition, I will give God of Creation my masterpiece, this sword right here. When Tian Qiyuan revealed the sword, countless gasps echoed through the crowd. Sword enthusiasts were literally drooling at the sight of such perfection, their hands itching with an almost unbearable urge to touch and inspect the masterpiece before them. The Celestial Emperor was no different. Despite his vast collection of treasures, none could compare to the sword crafted by Tian Qiyuan. Tian Qiyuan continued, with that said, God of Creation's life alone won't be able to make this a fair gamble, so I will be taking every treasure crafted from this God of Creation ceremony. Tian Qiyuan's words were quite arrogant, but nobody could refute his claims, not even the God of Creation himself. Sometime later, Tian Qiyuan and the God of Creation went to their workstations. Let the match between God of Creation and Exalted Blacksmith begin, the Celestial Emperor announced. Tian Qiyuan grabbed the first set of materials. There were signs beside the materials with the required type of treasure, and his first treasure would be a spear. Once he took a moment to examine the materials, Tian Qiyuan immediately began refining them. Unbeknownst to the world, Tian Qiyuan's smithing skills experienced a profound evolution after he successfully crafted his masterpiece. With his current skills, celestial-grade treasures were no different than spirit-grade treasures. A few hours later, while the God of Creation was still refining his materials, Tian Qiyuan finished his first treasure. No way, he's already done? It's only been 4 hours since he began. Impossible. He must be cheating. Are you fucking stupid? Almost every expert in the 9 heavens is present, including the Celestial Emperor himself. Even if he dared to cheat, I do not believe he can evade the detection of so many experts. 4 hours, what the hell is this? Is he crafting celestial-grade treasures or spirit-grade treasures? At this rate, he'll finish all 100 celestial-grade treasures before the God of Creation can finish a single treasure. God of Creation was so focused on his work that he didn't realize Tian Qiyuan had already finished his first treasure. Tian Qiyuan quickly moved on to his second treasure and a few hours later, finished it within 3 hours. My God. He's gotten even faster. Some people can't even comprehend just how amazing of a feat it is to lower even a single minute, much less an entire hour. Ding. 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 Tian Qiyuan's hammer swung with such speed that to onlookers, his arm seemed frozen in time. How fast is he hammering the materials? Although I hear a steady rhythm, he's obviously hammering it much faster. What kind of phenomenon is this? 2 hours later, Tian Qiyuan finished his third treasure, lowering his time by another hour. Heavens! The Celestial Emperor and the other powerhouses were all left stunned by Tian Qiyuan's ridiculous crafting speed. While they were certain that Tian Qiyuan was not cheating, they struggled to accept the existence of such unparalleled talent. Desperately, they scrutinized every detail in his movements, hoping to find something to discredit him. Unfortunately, no matter how hard they tried, they could not find anything sketchy about Tian Qiyuan's work. Heaven and Earth Blacksmith, who was present at the ceremony, sighed to himself, "He's truly ahead of our time by countless years. Such unrivaled talents, you can only be envious about it." Star Forging Blacksmith spoke with a bittersweet smile. After crafting his 10th treasure, Tian Qiyuan sped up a little more, now requiring only a single hour to finish a treasure. Surely he cannot go any faster than this, right? At this rate, Hell finished this ceremony in less than a week. 4 days later, Tian Qiyuan started working on his final treasure. Meanwhile, the god of creation was still trying to refine the materials for his first treasure. It was evident who was destined to win this competition long before Tian Qiyuan even completed his second treasure. Yet, no one intervened on behalf of the god of creation. Instead, they all pitied him. Having staked his very life on this contest, they were essentially witnessing the final moments of the god of creation. Unfortunately, his final moments were neither grand nor something to be celebrated. The once mighty god of creation was humbled, his greatness eclipsed by the brilliance of Tian Qiyuan's otherworldly talent. Half an hour later, Tian Qiyuan completed his 100th treasure, marking the end of his god of creation ceremony. He had somehow surpassed his previous flawless ceremony, achieving the impossible by elevating perfection to an even higher realm. As Tian Qiyuan finished his last treasure, the entire world fell silent, as if time itself had frozen in awe of his achievement. Tian Qiyuan placed his hammer down and turned to look at the god of creation, who was still hammering away, oblivious to the fact that the ceremony had already concluded. Tian Qiyuan shook his head and approached the god of creation, stopping right in front of his anvil. With Tian Qiyuan standing directly in front of him, the god of creation couldn't help but notice him, even in his state of deep immersion in his work. "Bastard, what are you trying to do? Are you giving up already because you know you can't beat me?" The god of creation stopped hammering and roared at Tian Qiyuan. Tian Qiyuan shrugged and said, "The competition's already over. However, I won't stop you if you wish to finish your ceremony. That way you'll get to spend a few more decades doing what you love before you die." "What?" The god of creation looked at him with disbelief. Chapter 1541 Defeating the God of Creation. Chapter 1541 Defeating the God of Creation. 1541 Defeating the God of Creation. "Why, you're done with the ceremony? That's impossible. It's only been several days since we started." God of Creation didn't even have to look at Tian Qiyuan's workstation to know that he was farting. Tian Qiyuan's expression remained calm as he spoke. "You really don't learn, do you? If you don't believe me, take a look for yourself." He gestured at his completed treasures on display. The god of creation didn't want to entertain Tian Qiyuan and his nonsense, but he had to take a look. When he turned his head to Tian Qiyuan's workstation, he could not see any materials. On Tian Qiyuan's display were 100 celestial-grade treasures, all of them following their own specifications. Clang. The god of creation dropped his hammer from shock after seeing this. He turned to look at the audience. They all wore expressions of defeat, a sorrowful aura hanging around them as if they were mourning a profound loss, his imminent death. While the god of creation lamented in silence, Tian Qiyuan spoke, "Even though it's your loss, I won't personally kill you, nor do I really care if you actually honor your own words. You can continue to live after this, but you will forever be known as a coward and slanderer for the rest of your life." Tian Qiyuan no longer paid attention to the god of creation and turned to look at the Yao Tao, who was seated with several elders of the Ancient Anvil Association, and said out loud, "Are you going to claim that I had cheated this competition too? Are you going to slander my name and call me a fraud to cover up what you've done in the past?" Yao Tao and the elders lowered their heads in shame, not daring to talk back. With their credibility lost and their slander now exposed to so many people, the Ancient Anvil Association was essentially finished. Moreover, after Tian Qiyuan's performance today, nobody would dare to offend him, who could churn out celestial, grade treasures like candy. The Celestial Emperor approached Tian Qiyuan once it became clear that the god of creation had given up, not that it would have made a difference even if he continued. Congratulations on becoming the next god of creation, Exalted Blacksmith. However, Tian Qiyuan shook his head and said, I have no intention of accepting that position. Seeing the confused look on the Celestial Emperor's face, he explained, I came back as the Exalted Blacksmith to clear my name, that's all. I have no intention of working as a blacksmith again. No way. With your talents, it'd be an immense waste of talents. Heaven and Earth Blacksmith suddenly stood up and exclaimed. Why did you become a blacksmith in the first place? The Celestial Emperor asked. Tian Qiyuan showed his sword and said, I started my journey as a blacksmith to craft the perfect weapon, and I have achieved my ambition. The Celestial Emperor swallowed nervously. With the sword so close to him, he had a strong urge to grab it from Tian Qiyuan. What do you plan on doing now that you've retired? I could offer you a position within the Celestial Palace. The Celestial Emperor said. I'm going to relax at home for a bit, hopefully with some company. Then, I'll begin my next project, whatever that may be. Tian Qiyuan proceeded to collect all of the treasures had crafted. Then, without giving the audience any more of his attention, he disappeared into the distance. The audience remained silent even after Tian Qiyuan left. As for the god of creation, he continued to sit before his anvil in silence, his thoughts unknown. After leaving the astral holy grounds, Tian Qiyuan returned to his own world. Over the next several years, the world would not stop talking about Tian Qiyuan's match against the god of creation, who disappeared after their competition and vanished from the world, never to be seen or heard from again. Nobody knew what happened to him. Some speculated that he had killed himself in isolation, while others speculated that he chickened out and couldn't kill himself and changed his identity. As for the Ancient Anvil Association, they were disbanded when everyone lost faith in them. Many blacksmiths blamed the association for Tian Qiyuan's early retirement and refused to collaborate with them. Countless blacksmiths tore up their contracts and discarded them outside the association's headquarters. The Ancient Anvil Association, one of the oldest establishments for blacksmiths, ended because they slandered a single man, and nobody felt sorry for them. With the god of creation gone and Tian Qiyuan refusing the title, the position became awkwardly vacant. Despite being qualified, neither the star-forging blacksmith nor the relentless blacksmith stepped forward to claim it. When asked about it, they simply said they were not worthy of it, especially when Tian Qiyuan still existed. In the end, people gave Tian Qiyuan a new title as the god of refinement due to his ridiculous material refining speed. As for Xuan, it became clear to everyone that she had been right all along. Tian Qiyuan was indeed innocent. Although her methods had been extreme, few blamed her for her actions. The unrivaled Nine Swords sect publicly announced their willingness to welcome her back into the sect, but they never heard from Xuan again. 9 years after Tian Qiyuan defeated the god of creation and cleared his name, he sensed a presence appearing inside his world. Omicronim, he greeted the presence with a gentle smile. It's been a while, Xuan. I'm sorry to show up in this pathetic state. She sighed, still in her soul form. It's all good. I'm glad you're okay. I was worried that I might never see you again. Really? You don't hate me? Even though I've done such horrible things? What's so horrible about trying to clear my name? So what if you've killed some people? They deserved it for slandering me. Tian Qiyuan shrugged. Qiyuan, thank you. Xuan said in a trembling voice. Chapter 1542 Empyrean Overlord's True Name. Chapter 1542 Empyrean Overlord's True Name 1542 Empyrean Overlord's True Name. What's your plan now? Tian Qiyuan asked Xuan sometime later. I don't know yet, but I'll let you know once I think of something. In the meantime, let me see your sword. I've been dying to take a look at it ever since I heard about it. Xuan said, her voice filled with enthusiasm. Of course. Tian Qiyuan retrieved his sword and held it before Xuan. Oh. Even without a body, Xuan could feel her entire existence trembling from excitement. Once her excitement calmed down a little, she noticed the sword emitting a strange aura, almost as though it was trying to charm her soul. However, after examining it for a little longer, she felt that something was off about it and she couldn't pinpoint why she was feeling this way. It's definitely an otherworldly sword without equal, and don't misunderstand me for saying this, Xuan muttered after a moment. but it feels like there's something missing. It just doesn't feel complete somehow. Xuan braced herself for Tian Qiyuan's reprimand, but to her surprise he simply smiled at her. If anyone could tell, I knew it would be you, Xuan. Tian Qiyuan chuckled. Despite the multitude of admirers and expert blacksmiths who had seen the sword, none had noticed the subtle flaw that Xuan pointed out. Huh, I was right? Xuan muttered in a dazed voice. Tian Qiyuan nodded and said, Indeed, you're right. As you pointed out, while the sword is finished, it's not truly complete. It's missing one key element, but this element isn't something that can be forged or crafted. What do you think this element is? Take a guess. Xuan stared at the sword in silence. However, no matter how much she thought about it, the answer eluded her. I can't think of anything. The answer is a soul. Tian Qiyuan answered a moment later. A soul? Like a human soul? Although I said soul, it's not the type you're thinking about. It's an extremely rare phenomenon, but did you know that given enough time and spiritual energy, natural plants and herbs can develop into sentient spirits with their own consciousness? Tian Qiyuan asked. Yes, I am aware of that. Treasures are the same. They, too, have the capability to form their own consciousness. When they do, they become soul weapons, a weapon with its own soul. However, not all treasures can become soul weapons. As for those that have the capability, one can only wait for them to turn into a soul weapon naturally. Tian Qiyuan then continued, This sword, it's an artificial soul weapon, a soulless one. While it doesn't have a soul right now, it has the capability to house a soul and grow together with it. An artificial soul weapon? That's crazy, but what advantage does it provide that a natural soul weapon cannot? Well, for starters, once a natural soul weapon spirit dies, the weapon loses its powers alongside the spirit. As for my sword, it won't lose its powers or be destroyed even without a spirit because it came into existence without one. And since the sword won't be destroyed without a spirit, we can always change out the spirit for whatever reason. Xuan listened to Tian Qiyuan's words as she stared at the beautiful sword. Would a human soul be compatible with it? She suddenly asked. A human soul, huh? Since a spirit's soul is almost indistinguishable from a human soul, I think it would work. Tian Qiyuan said. I have decided what I want to do. Qiyuan, let me become this sword's spirit, she spoke in a serious tone. What? Tian Qiyuan stared at her with wide eyes. The sword is incomplete right now because it doesn't have a soul, right? Then allow me to complete it. I have always wanted to become one with your swords, so this is exactly what I've been waiting for. But you're a human who spent most of your life living in this vast world. Are you really fine with throwing away all of that just to spend your life inside a sword as a spirit? Tian Qiyuan hesitated to make Xuan the spirit of his sword. I am. I can continue growing stronger with the sword, right? And it's not like I have to spend the rest of my life inside the sword since it can continue to operate without a spirit. Omicronym Tian Qiyuan sighed. If that's what you really want, I won't stop you. And it's true. If you ever change your mind, you can come out of the sword and return to living as a human. Then it's decided. I want to be together with you as your sword. This will fulfill both of my dreams at once, just like killing two birds with one stone. Xuan always wanted to remain by Tian Qiyuan's side, but her position within the unrivaled Nine-Sword sect made that difficult. Now that she'll be living inside his sword, she'll be able to follow him wherever he goes. However, promise me something. Xuan suddenly said. What is it? That you'll never let another soul dwell inside this sword for as long as I exist. As long as you wish to remain inside the sword, I promise that I won't let anyone else take your spot. Tian Qiyuan nodded. By the way, what's this sword's name? Tian Qiyuan smiled and said, I thought you'd never ask. Since it's a treasure that stands above all treasures under heaven, I named it Number 1 Under Heaven. Number 1 Under Heaven. What an arrogant yet fitting name. It's perfect. Sometime later, Xuan entered Number 1 Under Heaven, completing Tian Qiyuan's masterpiece. I remember everything now, Xuan. Yuan exclaimed as the sword spirit's aura reached its peak. Xuan's body trembled after hearing her name, and her aura began to simmer down. Yuan raised the Empyrean Overlord and mumbled to it, I apologize for not remembering you sooner, Number 1 Under Heaven. Ding. Chapter 1543 Number 1 Under Heaven. Chapter 1543 Number 1 Under Heaven 1543 Number 1 Under Heaven. So you've remembered everything, huh? Xuan pointed her finger at him in a threatening manner. Not literally everything as Tian Qiyuan, but I remember how we met, about the God of Creation ceremony, about being slandered and clearing my name, and how you became the spirit of number one under heaven. Then you remember our promise, right? That you'd never let another soul dwell within my sword for as long as I exist. She growled, her anger palpable. Yes, I remember, and I'm sorry for breaking that promise. I have no excuse, even though I only recovered Tian Qiyuan's memories just now. However, can you hear me out for a moment? He'll give you 1 minute to explain yourself. Zixin replied after a moment of silence. Thank you. Yuan immediately explained the situation to her. Sometime later, Zixin spoke after grasping the situation. I understand the situation now, but that doesn't mean I have to accept it. You tossed them into your soul weapon so you could bring them out of the Shadow Realm, but now that they're out of the Shadow Realm, they no longer have any reason to stay inside. Now give me back my home before I go in there and remove you myself. I can't promise you'll be in one piece by the time I am finished. Knowing Zixin's character and how much number one under heaven meant to her, he had no doubt that she would actually carry out her own threat. Yuan quickly pondered for a solution. Since the soul weapon could only house one soul at a time and he didn't have another unoccupied soul weapon, there was only one place for Yining to stay. "It's okay, young master. I will come out. Since we're outside the Shadow Realm, it's true that I no longer need to stay inside and this is her home after all," Yuning's voice suddenly said. And without waiting for Yuan to respond, Yuning emerged from number one under heaven. Unlike Zixin, who was in perfect shape and looked like an actual human, Yuning's soul resembled a small ethereal cloud. Zixin immediately entered number one under heaven. Ding, ding, ding. Number one under heaven, level, max, rank, soul weapon, growth rate. Requirement, can only be wielded by player Yuan. Description, the god of refinement's masterpiece. It is the pinnacle of swords and treasures with unfathomable prowess. Unique ability, weakened when wielding number one under heaven, all sword techniques will have their power amplified by 100,000%. Unique ability, 2 constantly devours the chi of your targets after a successful hit, replenishing your own chi. Omicronym, unique ability, 3 number one under heaven size and weight can be altered according to the user's desire. Chi consumption increases based on the size and weight gained. Unique ability, for when number one under heaven is out, all swords in the vicinity will have their powers sealed. Unique ability, 5 sealed. Unique ability, 9 sealed. 5 out of 9 of number one under heaven's unique abilities were inaccessible due to the restriction. I've been meaning to say this for a while now, but what's with your pathetic cultivation base? You won't be able to use me at my full potential at your current level. It's a miracle you managed to come this far inside the Vanishing Valley. Zixin's voice resounded from the sword. I know. I'm working on it. If I hadn't restricted most of number one under heaven's power before it fully awakened, your body would have exploded just from touching it. Anyway, do you remember how to use me? I do, but right now, Yuan turned to look at Yuning and said, you can stay inside my Dantian. What? Are you insane? Zixin responded before Yuning could. How can you let a stranger enter your Dantian so easily? If she wants to destroy your Dantian, there's nothing you can do to stop her. Due to a Dantian's unique properties, it was possible to let living beings reside within them. Xiaohua and Yuan's other servants were perfect examples of this phenomenon, as they would stay inside his Dantian whenever they entered his body. However, unlike Xiaohua and the others who couldn't harm Yuan due to their master and servant status, Yuning, who was not bound by any contract, posed a different story. This made her presence within the Dantian potentially dangerous, as she could destroy his Dantian while inside. Even though I haven't known Yuning for long, I trust her enough to let her stay within my Dantian, Yuan said with a calm smile. Young master, to go through such lengths for me? I am eternally grateful, Yuning spoke, her voice trembling with emotion. And she continued, with heaven as my witness, I swear upon my soul that I will never harm you for as long as I live, or may the heavens shatter my soul. A profound aura enveloped Yuning's soul as she finished speaking, signifying that her oath had been heard and was now in effect. If Yuning were to harm Yuan from this moment forth, her soul would be shattered. You didn't need to do that, but thank you for doing so, Yuan said. Once I regain my body, I will definitely serve you properly, young master, Yuning said as she entered his Dantian. Chapter 1544 Zixin Stash. Chapter 1544 Zixin Stash 1544 Zixin Stash. Now then. Zixin, let's talk about your situation. Why are you staying in the Vanishing Valley, possessing that giant sword? Yuan turned his focus to Zixin now that Yuning's issue was resolved. Good question. Unfortunately, I do not know. Or more precisely, I don't remember. When I woke up, I found myself already inside the Vanishing Valley, and not wanting my soul to degrade, I had to possess a treasure, and this giant sword happened to be nearby. You don't remember? Then do you remember what you did before losing consciousness? I have a faint recollection of engaging in a battle, but the specifics elude me. I can't recall the circumstances that led to the fight or who or what I was up against, she confessed. Is that so? Yuan mumbled with a pondering face. Oh, but I do remember you telling me something right before I lost consciousness. Wait for me, you said, and so I did, for countless years. Sorry for making you wait so long. You can make it up to me with some intense sex later, Zixin casually said. Xiaohua lifted an eyebrow at Zixin's words. Yuning wondered to herself, a sword spirit having intercourse with a human? Is that even possible? Unbeknownst to Yuning, Zixin was originally human. However, after spending countless years as a sword spirit, her soul experienced a profound transformation that turned her into a hybrid of sorts, the first of its kind. Then did the previous me tell you anything about what I should do? Yuan then asked. They always say the same time, just let fate take its course. Of course, why did I even ask? Yuan shook his head at his own foolishness. What about you, Zixin? Do you have any goals or purpose at the moment? I only have one purpose, to protect and serve you as your sword. Unfortunately, due to your insufficient cultivation base, I have to suppress my cultivation base and restrict number 1 under heaven's true potential, which will make protecting you a lot more difficult. However, unless you run into an immortal or something, there won't be a problem. Yuan nodded. Now that I've done everything I need to in here, let's get out of this ominous place. Wait. Before you leave, you should take the monster cores I have collected over the years from killing magical beasts that tried to challenge me. I put them right underneath the giant sword. They will benefit your cultivation greatly if you consume them. Zixin suddenly said. Okay. Yuan flew toward the giant sword. Did I hear that right? You can consume monster cores? Yuning doubted her ears. Yes, I have a unique physique that allows me to do so. Just what kind of existence are you, young master? Yuning muttered in a dazed voice. Sometime later, Yuan arrived at the base of the giant sword, where a mountain of monster cores was stashed out in the open. The sight of so many cores piled together was both awe-inspiring and intimidating. Furthermore, more than half of these monster cores belonged to immortal-level magical beasts. I won't have to worry about raising my cultivation base for a while. Yuan swallowed nervously. Then he remembered that he was cursed by the Celestial Emperor, so these monster cores would lose 99% of their effects. If it weren't for the curse, my cultivation could probably shoot straight to true immortal with this many monster cores and complete one of the requirements to unlock heaven's supremacy, he sighed inwardly. Speaking of heaven's supremacy, now that I have number 1 under heaven, maybe I can defeat a divine emperor-level magical beast and get that task finished. Moreover, I have Immortal Monarch's dominion which will surely make things easier. After putting away the monster cores into his spatial ring, Yuan immediately went around looking for a magical beast with a cultivation of divine emperor, which was exactly 9 realms above Spirit King. Zixin continued chatting with him as he traveled. Hey, what's your current life like? And what's our situation looking like? Yuan proceeded to explain about his new life on Earth, the existence of cultivation online, and his current situation. Omicron M cultivation online, huh? What an interesting concept the Celestial Emperor had crafted. I'm also interested in your world. Let me see it the next time you return. Yuning also listened with great interest. As for Xiaohua, she couldn't comprehend Yuan's words, nor did she find anything weird about it. To her, it was akin to trying to comprehend an unknown scripture even though she understood the words themselves. A few days later, Yuan encountered a magical beast at the first level of Divine Sovereign, which was stronger than his initial target. However, he figured that he'd try to defeat it. He approached the magical beast in a calm manner and used Immortal Monarch's dominion on it. You are forbidden from moving until I say so. The magical beast's movements immediately stopped. However, it quickly started moving again after a few seconds, albeit extremely slow and stiff. Is my cultivation not strong enough to command them perfectly? Yuan wondered to himself. He used Immortal Monarch's dominion on it again, resetting the effects. Then, with number 1 under heaven in his grasp, Yuan activated God of War's astral arts before using 9 supreme swords. With number 1 under heaven's unique ability, 9 Supreme Sword's power increased by 100,000%. With 9 strikes in total, the first strike was powerful enough to kill a divine warrior instantly. The second strike could annihilate a divine master in one blow. The third strike could defeat a divine grandmaster, while the fourth strike was potent enough to kill a divine lord. The 9 Supreme Sword's fifth strike was powerful enough to obliterate a divine king. However, it took the seventh strike to defeat a divine emperor. As for a divine sovereign magical beast, the 8th strike heavily injured it, with the 9th and final strike killing it. With a single technique that delivered 9 consecutive attacks, each more powerful than the last, Xuan managed to defeat a magical beast 10 realms above his own cultivation with relative ease. Chapter 1545 Leaving Vanishing Valley? Chapter 1545 Leaving Vanishing Valley 1545 Leaving Vanishing Valley Ding. Defying logic with overwhelming strength. All damage dealt to magical beasts will be increased by 1,000%. Xuan looked at number 1 under heaven after defeating the magical beast with ease. The difference between its unawakened form and awakened form is night and day. Their strength is simply incomparable. I haven't felt this powerful since heaven's supremacy. He muttered to himself. You think it is powerful right now? Just wait until you can use its full potential. This isn't even 10% of its true power. Xuan said. Not even 10%? Yingzhe swallowed nervously. This was her first time witnessing anyone fight and defeat a magical beast 10 realms above their own cultivation. Yet, Xuan managed to do it with relative ease, leaving her in awe of his godlike prowess. Since I am already here, I might as well test out number 1 under heaven a little more, Xuan said before going to find his next target. Sometime later, he encountered a divine grandmaster-level magical beast with a body that was several times larger than an adult elephant. After halting its movements with Immortal Monarch's dominion, Xuan activated number 1 under heaven's third unique ability. Then, as though it was a balloon, number 1 under heaven began growing in size until it was 150 meters long. Since number 1 under heaven was too large to hold, Xuan used Qi manifestation to wield it, levitating it in the air. However, despite its increased size, its weight remained the same, but that didn't remain the same for long, as Xuan increased its weight until it was as heavy as a mountain of steel. Then he swung it at the magical beast, cleaving its large body cleanly in half. After killing the magical beast, Xuan reverted the sword's size but kept its weight the same. However, it still felt as light as a feather in his hand, as if the sword's increased weight didn't affect him. Sometime later, Xuan found a magical beast only at the level of a spirit sovereign. Without using Immortal Monarch's dominion on it, he struck its body with number 1 under heaven without killing it and only injuring it with a superficial wound. After inflicting the injury, Xuan could feel number 1 under heaven absorbing the magical beast's spiritual energy through the wound before replenishing his cultivation with the spiritual energy it absorbed. It's absorbing much more than ID anticipated. Number 1 under heaven was absorbing enough spiritual energy to completely deplete a spirit king's cultivation base within seconds, causing them to suffer from cultivation deprivation. Just how many unique abilities does your sword have? Yingzhe couldn't help but ask. A typical treasure would only have 1 unique ability, with the higher quality ones having 2. Even the most powerful celestial grade treasures in the world would not have more than 3 unique abilities. Number 1 under heaven has 9 unique abilities. Xuan responded in a prideful tone. 9? Yingzhe was shocked to learn this information. And it will learn more as it continues to evolve. Number 1 under heaven is a unique treasure that does not have a limit. It's truly a weapon with unlimited potential. Is it a natural weapon or was it crafted by someone? Yingzhe asked out of curiosity. It was crafted by none other than the person you're dwelling within, who was once known as the god of refinement. Both his reputation and skill surpasses even the god of creation. That was in the past, in one of my past lives. Xuan calmly said. How many past lives do you have? Yingzhe was baffled to learn that he had more than one incredible incarnation. I don't know the exact number. Do you, Xuan? Xuan turned to her. You rarely talked about your past, so no. However, while I don't know much about the lives before Tian, I know he had reincarnated 3 more times afterward, not including your current one. They are Tian Xian, Tian Kai and Tian Yingzhe. Tian Xian. That's the Sword Emperor and the Lord. Tian Kai is the one who taught the Zither goddess. Who is Tian Yingzhe? Xuan only recognized 2 of the 3 names provided by Xuan. Tian Xian was the identity of the Nameless Emperor, also known as the Sword Emperor. Tian Kai excelled in music and also taught the Zither goddess. However, he didn't recognize Tian Yingzhe at all. He could be the Celestial Overlord's founder or a brand new identity that I have not discovered yet. What do you know about Tian Yingzhe? Sorry, but I don't remember anything besides his name. I have more memories missing besides the moment before I lost consciousness and appeared in the Vanishing Valley. However, I think I will remember everything soon since I've been regaining bits and pieces of my memories about 2 decades ago. Xuan said. It's fine. We can learn a lot with just a name. Once he was satisfied with his testing, Yuan flew without stopping until he left the Vanishing Valley with Xuan's help, as his divine sense was not strong enough to see through the natural illusion that prevented people from leaving the place. Feels great to leave that place finally. I was beginning to wonder if I would ever leave. Xuan sighed once they were outside Vanishing Valley. I'm just glad I don't have to deal with the Black Death anymore. That thing was a menace. That thing? You can damage it with Supreme Sword Aura, Xuan suddenly revealed. I just learned Enhanced Sword Aura. It'll be a while before I learn Supreme Sword Aura. You can also damage it with number 1 under heaven, once you unlock its unique ability that allows you to cut through anything including Black Death. However, you'll have to reach Spirit Enlightenment to unlock it. Spirit Enlightenment, huh? Good to know. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Chapter 1546 Returning to the Third Heaven. Chapter 1546 Returning to the Third Heaven. 1546 Returning to the Third Heaven. After leaving Vanishing Valley, Xuan asked him, "What do you plan on doing now?" "I'm going to descend to the third heaven for a while." "What's happening down there?" "Nothing. I'm just meeting up with a friend." "Is that so?" "Anyway, I'm going to slumber for a bit as I haven't been able to relax at home for countless years now. Don't bring me out unless you're in danger." "All right. Get some good rest, Xuan," Yuan said before putting her away. Even in its suppressed form, number 1 under heaven was incredibly overpowered and definitely not necessary for the fourth heaven, let alone the third heaven. "Welcome back, my liege." Dong Ye's voice suddenly resounded. "It appears that you've reunited with Lady Z and managed to awaken your sword's true appearance. Did you know Xuan was in the Vanishing Valley this whole time?" Yuan suddenly asked. "No, my liege. I was only aware that a powerful sword spirit existed within the Vanishing Valley. Although I had my suspicions, I could never confirm it." Yuan nodded. "Anyway, I'm going to make a quick trip to the third heaven. Watch over my friends while I am gone." Naturally. Yuan made his way back to the Black Fog City for their teleportation device. From there, he teleported to the city closest to the Stairway to Heaven. Sometime later, Yuan arrived at the Stairway to Heaven. Instead of immediately entering the Stairway to Heaven, Yuan admired it from outside. Stairway to Heaven? He vaguely recalled crafting the Stairway to Heaven as Tian Yuan to make traveling between the 9 heavens more convenient. Before the Stairway to Heaven came into existence, cultivators had to traverse the vast starry sky to travel between realms, rendering the notion of journeying from one heaven to another much less accessible. Each journey, depending on one's starting point and destination, could take years if not decades. The arduous and perilous voyages deterred many, making travel between heavens a rare and significant endeavor reserved for the powerful and privileged. Realizing this, Tian Yuan crafted the Stairway to Heaven, allowing everyone the privilege of traversing the 9 heavens. In the beginning, the Stairway to Heaven was only used as a means of travel. However, nowadays, it has become a trial of sorts for those in the lower heavens who wish for a better and more challenging life in the upper heavens. Those who successfully ascend are often regarded with great respect and seen as worthy of the higher realms' opportunities and challenges. As for who decided to turn the Stairway to Heaven into a trial, it was the Celestial Emperor, who wanted to regulate travel within the 9 heavens so the upper heavens were not overpopulated, allowing the natural resources there to remain abundant. As for the lower heavens, while they may have fewer resources, they don't have to worry about any immortals wreaking havoc. Tian Yuan had no problem letting the Celestial Emperor control the Stairway to Heaven either. It was only natural to let the ruler of 9 heavens have authority over such issues, and not doing so might spark another war. Even if he handed control over to the Celestial Emperor, he was still the ultimate decision-maker as its creator, and he could regain full control whenever he wanted. Furthermore, he saw this as an opportunity to turn the Stairway to Heaven into a training ground for his future reincarnations. Yuan entered the Stairway to Heaven after admiring his own creation for a minute. Welcome back, Master. Tian greeted him inside. Are you already ascending to the 5th heaven? No, I am going to visit the 3rd heaven. I understand. Please have a safe journey. Tian didn't ask any questions and created a staircase that went down instead of going up like usual. Thank you. Xuan didn't say anything else and began his descent. Typically, after receiving approval, one must pay the lord of their respective heaven a significant amount of resources before they can descend. The only exception is for those traveling under the orders of the Celestial Emperor, such as the envoys sent to the lower heavens to find Xuan. Moreover, one would have their cultivation restricted to the limits of their destination to control the damage that could be done while there. Fortunately, Xuan's cultivation was still well within the limits of 3rd heaven, so he didn't need to worry about his cultivation being a problem. An hour later, Xuan emerged from the stairway to heaven, arriving at the 3rd heaven. He'll be right back. Xuan logged off shortly after to contact Bai Ning. Since Yu Ning dwelled within Yuan's Dantian, she was unable to travel to Earth and was forced to enter a slumbering state after he logged off. The same went for Xiaohua. Yes, I've arrived in the 3rd heaven. Meet me at the nearest myriad of techniques. Okay, I'll see you in a bit. Xuan returned to cultivation online the next moment. Looks like I'm unable to go to Earth with you while I am in your Dantian. I guess it makes sense since I technically have 2 bodies and you're in my other Bodis Dantian. Meanwhile, soul weapons are connected to one soul so I can bring it out no matter which body I am using. The Spirit Avatar Array and the Soul Transference Array, huh? They were classified as level 8 formations during my time, but even I cannot perform them despite being a level 8 Array Master, so they're definitely level 9 formations. I cannot imagine how powerful the Array Master who performed these 2 formations on such a massive scale may be, but they're definitely powerful enough to be the God of Formations. The God of Formations, huh? What does it take to become one? Well, while the position of God of Formation existed during my time, nobody was actually good enough to claim that title. To even have the chance to be the God of Formation, you need to be able to create a level 9 formation that was considered the most complex and difficult formation in existence, the Chaotic Heaven and Earth Formation. It's an unfathomably powerful formation that has flawless offensive and defensive capabilities. The Chaotic Heaven and Earth Formation. I have heard of it. It was used by the first Celestial Emperor when I fought him as the evil god, and it was very annoying to deal with. Xuan casually muttered. Excuse me? What did you just say? That I fought the first Celestial Emperor as the evil god? Alright. I didn't tell you guys yet. Why you were the evil god in one of your previous lives? Why didn't you say this sooner? Yu Ning exclaimed in a shocked voice. Well, now you know. Xuan smiled. Yu Ning fell silent the next moment, almost as though she was trying to figure out how she should react to this shocking revelation. Xuan made it all the way to the myriad of techniques in complete silence. Bai Lianhua was standing outside when he arrived. Sorry, did you wait long? Bai Lianhua shook her head and smiled. No, I just got here myself. Let's go inside. Once inside, Xuan brought her straight to the highest floor and said, Alright, go pick whatever techniques you want. Are you sure about this? She asked, still hesitant to accept such a gift from him. What are you saying now? Go and get some techniques for your faction. Also, you can take your time. I'll also be looking around. Okay. Bai Lianhua left the next moment to wander the place while Xuan also went to check out the techniques. While he doesn't need any for himself, he figured that he might as well acquire a few for his faction. Yet, even after looking through the entire floor, Xuan was unable to find any decent techniques. Although most people would consider the techniques at myriad of techniques above standard, they were merely SOSO in Yuan's eyes. Suddenly, a voice resounded inside his head. I see that you've returned from the Vanishing Valley in one piece, Xuan. I'm relieved. Anyway, can I have a moment of your time right now? I have some urgent information for you. Senior Bai's voice resounded. He'll be right there. Xuan went to find Bai Lianhua to let her know that he'd be gone for a bit before going to Senior Bai's world. What's wrong, Senior Bai? Xuan asked after meeting up with him. This is about the escaped immortals. Do you remember the 3rd immortal who managed to escape into the lower heavens? Well, we found the immortal in the 4th heaven where you currently are. The 4th heaven, so what's going to happen now? There are already experts chasing after this immortal, but their hands are somewhat tied because they don't want to cause too much damage in the 4th heaven. This escaped immortal, do they have their full cultivation? Xuan asked. No, their cultivation will be suppressed because of the heavenly law. However, they won't be fully suppressed, so this immortal is still strong enough to wreak havoc within the 4th heaven. Yuan began pondering. Since this immortal has their cultivation restricted, he might be able to finish the task that required him to defeat a cultivator 9 realms above his own. If I happen to run into this immortal, I can kill them, right? He asked. Senior Bai was left speechless by his question. You actually want to fight the immortal? That's reckless, suicidal. I gave you that treasure to detect the immortal's presence not because I want you to fight them but to run away and call for backup instead. I know, but if the immortal is weak enough, I might be able to catch them off guard and kill it in one go, Yuan responded calmly despite talking about fighting an immortal. Chapter 1547 Tian Yingzhe. Chapter 1547 Tian Yingzhe 1547 Tian Yingzhe. I understand your immense talent and prowess, and I've witnessed the full force of your attacks. But, my dear little friend, these immortals are not like anything you've encountered. They are a force beyond your wildest imagination, and they won't simply stand there to be defeated. I implore you to reconsider your decision. Senior Bai's words carried a weight of urgency, hoping to sway Yuan's determination. Don't worry, Senior Bai. I've grown a lot stronger since my visit to the Vanishing Valley. I'm also not as reckless as you think. If I deem the opponent too dangerous, he'll run away. And what if by the time you realize the danger, it's already too late? It would be far wiser to avoid them altogether. Senior Bai sighed, his disappointment evident as he contemplated Yuan's unwavering resolve to face this immortal. If anyone else were in his shoes, they wouldn't even think of such a thing. I guess this is what differentiates the true prodigies from the talented. They are truly incomprehensible beings. There is also a saying that the more talented an individual is, the more they tend to attract danger. Unfortunately, this is also why they tend to perish earlier than others despite having more potential. Normally, Senior Bai would stop trying to persuade Yuan to fight the immortal, but knowing firsthand how dangerous the immortals from the 9 Heavens Eternal Grotto are, he continued trying. The criminals within the 9 Heavens Eternal Grotto, the immortals you're so eager to fight, are arguably even more dangerous than the ones sealed within the primordial realm. They are also much harder to kill than ordinary immortals due to their unique physiques, such as the one within the 4th heaven, who has the shrouded physique, which makes their appearance impossible to perceive even with divine sense. And because you cannot see their body, you won't be able to predict their attacks or attack them effectively. I see. Yuan turned silent with a pondering face, but it wasn't because he was reconsidering fighting the immortal. He was wondering how he could effectively deal with them. Anyway, thank you for warning me about the immortal. I'll keep my eyes out for them. Also, I would like you to pass on a message to Lady Su for me. Senior Bai narrowed his eyes at Yuan, wondering if he'd given up on fighting the immortal or the opposite. What's the message? Can you ask her if she knows the name Tian Yingzhe? That's all. Tian Yingzhe? Okay, I'll let her know. Then I'll see you next time. I'm going to warn you again just in case. Don't engage with the immortal. Just run away and notify me if you sense them nearby. I understand. Yuan nodded with a mysterious smile on his face. Senior Bai still felt concerned for some reason. Once Yuan left, he sighed out loud, alas, even there's nothing I can do if he truly wants to fight the immortal? Wait a minute. I can just have someone watch over him. With this idea in mind, Senior Bai left his world to contact someone from the celestial Overlord. Sometime later, Senior Bai arrived at a massive outdoor training ground that was as large as several major cities. This junior greets Overlord Bai. A half-naked, tall and robust man stopped his training and respectfully bowed to Senior Bai after noticing his presence. Sorry for the sudden visit, Kellen. You're always welcome, no matter the time and day. Are you busy nowadays? Senior Bai asked. It's the same as usual. Then, do you mind doing me a favor? I'd like you to watch over a junior of ours in case he does anything reckless. A junior of ours? So he's a member of the faction? Yes, he joined very recently. This junior must be very special for you to go out of your way to do this. Kellen smiled. You have no idea. He was recruited by Celestial Overlord Su herself. What? Celestial Overlord Su recruited him? Alright, I'll take a look at this junior. Where is he? 4th heaven. Omicronum, huh? But we're currently in the 8th heaven. I am aware. Kellen raised his eyebrows in a puzzled manner. Oh, was this junior sent to the lower heavens to find a certain somebody? Kellen suddenly came to this realization. No, this junior was recruited in the lower heavens. He's only a spirit king, so he's a real junior. And no way. Kellen wore a look of disbelief on his face. When was the last time they had someone with such low cultivation amongst their ranks? Don't look down on this junior, Kellen. Even though Head only recently joined, he's already a general. Already a general? That's impossible. Kellen cried out loud. Senior Bai smiled. If his rank had been lower, I would have asked someone else. You're the only commander with so much free time too. Please don't make me sound like a slacker, Overlord Bai. Training is also working and I am still healing from my injury. Senior Bai glanced at the obvious scar that covered Kellen's arm and said, I'm just joking with you. Anyway, can you do this favor for me? You'll also be helping Celestial Overlord Su since she cares about him too. Of course. You just need me to watch over him, right? Yes, since he might pick a fight with one of the escaped immortals who was found in the fourth heaven. A mere spirit king daring to pick a fight with an escaped immortal from the Nine Heavens Eternal Grotto? This kid's got guts. We might get along pretty well. Kellen laughed out loud at this information. His name is Xuan. Also, he's from outside the Nine Heavens if you know what I mean. I know. The lost ones, right? Do you mind if I talk to him or am I just supposed to tail him like a spy? You can interact with him if you want. All right. Don't bully him too much or you might catch a beating from Celestial Overlord Su. Senior Bai chuckled. When have I ever bullied a junior? Kellen laughed out loud. Then I'll make arrangements for your descent after I speak with Celestial Overlord Su. You should prepare for your departure too. Understood. I'll see you later, Overlord Bai. After Senior Bai left, Kellen smiled. A spirit king and a general, huh? I have high expectations so don't disappoint me, Junior. After his meeting with Kellen, Senior Bai went to find Su Jiechi. Feels like I've been seeing you much often lately. Is this related to him? Su Jiechi spoke the moment Senior Bai entered her office. Yes, it's about Yuan. I wanted to let you know that I had sent Commander Kellen to watch over him. Why? Su Jiechi raised an eyebrow at this unexpected news. One of the escaped immortals was spotted in the fourth heaven, and when I warned him about it, he decided to fight them instead of running away. I advised him not to fight them, and even though he said he understood, I cannot help but doubt him. Is that so? Fighting an escaped immortal, huh? If he somehow manages to defeat an immortal, our reputation would skyrocket. You want him to fight the immortal? Senior Bai stared at her with wide eyes. Of course not. I'm just saying. Anyway, you did the right thing. We cannot let someone as talented as him die in vain. Is that all? There's one more thing. Yuan asked me to pass a message on to you. After clearing his throat, Senior Bao repeated, Do you know the name Tian Yingzhe? What? Su Jiechi's expression froze after hearing this name. Seeing her reaction, Senior Bai swallowed nervously. After a moment of silence, Su Jiechi suddenly stood up, slammed the desk before her, and loudly inquired, Where did he learn of this name? I don't know. I didn't ask since it seemed like an innocent question. Who is Tian Yingzhe? Should I be worried? Su Jiechi didn't immediately respond and fell back onto her chair. After another moment of silence, she sighed. He was the founder of the Celestial Overlord. What? The founder? But I thought, Su Jiechi nodded and said, the founder had two names. One was his true name, and the other was used for the Celestial Overlord. Even among the other Celestial Overlords, only I knew his true name. Oh, then was it okay for you to have revealed it to me? Senior Bai asked. It's fine, since you would have learned it sooner or later after. However, how did Yuan learn of this name? I'll ask him the next time I see him. Please do. Su Jiechi nodded with a serious expression on her face. Also, although it's just a name, keep it to yourself. Of course. I won't tell a soul. Senior Bai nodded. Then what about your response? He then asked. Just tell him what I told you. I understand. Meanwhile, Yuan returned to Bai Lianhua's side after leaving Senior Bai's world. You're really not being humble. Yuan smiled when she saw the piles of techniques Bai Lianhua had picked out. Is this too much? I knew it, but no, it's fine. Yuan chuckled. Are you sure I can have all of this for free? I'm certain. Once they were prepared, Bai Lianhua brought all of the techniques to the register, shocking the worker. But before the worker could even open his mouth to speak, Yuan showed his general symbol, shocking the worker even more. Thank you for your service. The worker bowed to Yuan. Yuan nodded at him before turning to look at Bai Lianhua and speaking, It's done. You can put them away. What? That's all? She stared at him with a gawking expression, as she had anticipated a much lengthier process. That's all. he confirmed with a smile. Chapter 1548 Messing with the Qin Family. Chapter 1548 Messing with the Qin Family. 1548 Messing with the Qin Family. After acquiring the techniques, they left the myriad of techniques. However, even after successfully leaving the store with the techniques, Bai Lianhua couldn't believe that she'd managed to acquire so many powerful techniques for free. Even if she had her family's full backing, it would still be difficult for them to purchase this many rare and valuable techniques without severely damaging their finances. Yet, she was able to acquire them for free because of Yuan. How exactly did you manage to do that again? She looked at him with wide eyes. Did you know that factions also exist in? I am part of the faction that owns the myriad of technique, so it's a member's privilege, of sorts. Yuan gave a brief explanation. Do you think I can also join your faction? Bai Lianhua knew the answer even before she asked, but she still had to take her chances. Probably not, and I am not looking down on you when I say this, but their requirements are quite high, as they're one of the top factions in the upper heavens. In fact, you won't even meet them unless you ascend at least to the 6th heaven. Bai Lianhua showed a bittersweet smile and shook her head. No, it's fine. I completely understand. I am not foolish enough to think that I have even a fraction of your talents. There's no need to drag yourself down like this. You're plenty talented. With enough experience and time, you'll definitely qualify for my faction. Bai Lianhua nodded and said, So, what are you going to do now? Return to the 4th heaven? Not yet. I still have some business in 3rd heaven. By the way, do you know of a Qin family? Yuan said. I know of several. Which one are you referring to? The one close with the Walker's family and the Gu family. Oh yeah, I know of them. They've been quickly rising in reputation and power recently with the Walker's family and Gu family's help, after all. Why are you asking about them? Did something happen between you guys? Yuan nodded. I'm not directly involved, but they've been bullying the family of someone who's very close to me, even going as far as to use poison. Poison? What a nasty bunch. But I'm not surprised that someone closely affiliated with Fiery Queen has such a nature. What are you going to do with them? I'm not sure yet. The family they've been targeting has been losing business because of the bullying, so I'm thinking about messing with their operations within as a warning. If you want, I can help you locate their businesses. It shouldn't be too hard with my family's resources. Really? That'd be great. Consider it my payment for the techniques, even though it's nowhere enough to pay for everything. Bai Lianhua showed a bashful smile. She continued, Then I'll contact you once I have the information prepared. It shouldn't take too long. A few hours at most. All right. By the way, take this. Yuan handed her a spatial ring filled with treasures that he had picked up but had no use for. This is a lot. There are even divine-grade treasures inside. Are you sure about this, Yuan? The techniques are already more than enough. Just take it. He nodded. Thank you, really? Bai Lianhua logged off the next moment. With nothing else to do, Yuan also decided to log off. While he waited for Bai Lianhua to scout the Qin family's business, Yuan went to visit the Chu family. I've decided to mess with the Qin family's business within Cultivation Online. Mess with? If you don't mind me asking, how do you plan on doing that? Chu Shijian asked. It depends on the kind of operation they have, but it'll most likely end up destroying all of their business. Yuan casually shrugged. Is that so? By the way, any news from the Qin family? Yuan then asked. Well, they've figured out that we know about Chu Weiyang being their spy when they haven't been able to contact him since we locked him up. Just yesterday they threatened to completely destroy our business within Cultivation Online in a few days if we don't obey them. Omicronim, a few days, huh? Not before I destroy them in a few hours. Yuan smiled. To do so much for us, I really don't know how to thank you. Chu Shijian sighed. You don't need to thank me because I am not doing this for you. I am doing this for Lulu. Yuan calmly corrected him. We still end up receiving your help, so you have my gratitude. 3 hours after they logged off, Bai Lianhua contacted Yuan. The Qin family has 3 major businesses in the 3rd heaven. The first and most profitable business is their monster hunting business. They have about 50 different teams that specialize in monster hunting throughout 3rd heaven, and you can identify them through the purple badge by their waist. Their strongest and highest grossing team is in Nightwing City, most of them being spirit lords. While they don't have a store, they typically meet up at the Purple Lizard Pavilion before going on their hunt. After giving Yuan their location, Bai Lianhua proceeded to give him some of their names and their physical descriptions. She continued, their second business, the dungeon hunting team, is currently staying at the 8-Point Hotel in Yunyun City. Their third business is a medicine store called Perfect Qin Medicine, which is also located within Nightwing City. You've gathered so much information so quickly. I was told it wasn't easy learning about another's business without having insiders. Yuan smiled. Bai Lianhua chuckled, who in the 10 great families doesn't have a spy or two? With how quickly the Qin family has been growing, I'm sure there are many keeping eyes on them. Makes sense. Then I'll see you later. Yes, see you later. After returning to Cultivation Online, Yuan made his way to Nightwing City while Bai Lianhua sorted out all of the treasures Yuan gave her. Sometime later, Yuan arrived at the Purple Lizard Pavilion and, using his divine sense, looked at every single individual inside the pavilion. It must be them. Yuan quickly found the players who matched the description Bai Lianhua gave him. He didn't approach them and simply watched them from afar. There were 11 players in their group, all of whom were between the 6th and 9th levels of Spirit Lord. Although Yuan wanted to kill them immediately, he decided to mess with them a bit first. Half an hour later, once they were prepared, the group of players left the city and entered the nearby wilderness, where magical beasts between the 3rd and 6th levels of Spirit Lord roamed. They quickly encountered their first magical beast. It was at the 5th level of Spirit Lord. Yuan didn't interfere and watched them hunt the magical beast together. Their movements and great teamwork indicated that they'd been working together for a long time. It took them almost 10 whole minutes to defeat the magical beast, but only 5 out of 11 had fought. After defeating the magical beast, they stripped any valuable materials from the corpse before resuming their hunt. For their next encounter, the other 6 that didn't participate in the first encounter fought. They rotated between 2 groups to save energy, as they planned on hunting until night. However, during their third encounter, right as the group was able to defeat the 7th level Spirit Lord magical beast, Yuan appeared out of thin air to steal their kill. What the fuck? Who the hell are you? Yuan was wearing a mask so none of them could identify him. Moreover, Yuan had killed the magical beast so badly that even its materials could not be salvaged. Identify yourself, the group demanded. However, Yuan didn't say anything and merely escaped from the scene, vanishing like a ghost. What the fuck was that about? I have no idea. He was probably just some weirdo passing by. Let's forget about him and continue our hunt. The group didn't bother chasing after Yuan and resumed their hunt. However, their 4th and 5th encounters had all been sabotaged by Yuan, who refused to explain anything and vanished as soon as he was done. God damn it. What the fuck is going on? Does that person have a grudge against us or something? He's not even letting us collect the materials. I have never seen or heard of anything like this before. That's it. If he dares to show up again, we're all going to attack him without warning. Keep your eyes out. The leader of their group declared. They encountered their 6th magical beast soon. Once again, Yuan showed up at the end to claim the kill for himself. The group of hunters was prepared this time and attacked him the moment he showed himself. However, none of them had expected Yuan to block all of their attacks with ease, and before they could attack again, Yuan vanished into thin air. God fucking damn it. What the hell is that bastard's problem? We've been out here for 4 hours and only managed to secure 1 kill. He's probably hiding his face because he's afraid we might recognize him. Let's see how long he can keep this farce up. He must have used a considerable amount of spiritual energy to defeat the last few magical beasts. I doubt he'll be able to continue this for long. He will eventually slip up and that's when we'll get that bastard. Yeah. The group continued their hunt, fueled by anger and the desire to catch Yuan. Chapter 1549 Messing with the Qin Family 2. Chapter 1549 Messing with the Qin Family 2. 1549 Messing with the Qin Family 2. Several hours have passed since Yuan started messing with the Qin family's strongest hunting group. They figured he would eventually run out of energy and mess up, but Yuan continued stealing their kills with seemingly no effort at all. Fuck. I've had enough. Get out here and face us like a man, you fucking coward. Come out. Get out here and fight me, you bastard. The group of players eventually had enough and started yelling out loud like a group of maniacs. Seeing this, Yuan smiled inwardly. I guess it's about time I stop messing around and deal with them for real. With that in mind, he emerged from his hiding spot and appeared before them. You finally appeared, you kill-stealing bastard. I have never seen anyone as shameless as you. Let me give you a good beating. The group of players approached Yuan with enraged faces. However, Yuan raised his hand and gestured for them to stop. Wait a minute. I have some questions for you before I decide your fates. And who the fuck are you to decide our fate? Get him. The leader of their group shouted. But before any of them could move, Yuan released his suppressed cultivation base at the peak of Spirit King. The pressure was so immense and unbearable for these spirit lords that they collapsed on the ground, unable to breathe. A Spirit King? Please? Have mercy. Yuan retrieved his aura, allowing them to breathe again. I think you might have mistaken us for someone else. I don't ever recall offending someone like you. Hearing such words, Yuan spoke. So you guys aren't working for the Qin family? This is about the Qin family? He silently nodded. We do work for the Qin family, but what's that got to do with this? He'll keep this short, but I'm going to shut down the Qin family's business, so if you could do me a favor and just quit, I won't make things difficult for you. What? This is too sudden. We can't do that even if you threaten us. One of them quickly said. Why are you targeting the Qin family? They have a lot of influence nowadays, especially with the 10 great families' help. I am just giving them a taste of their own medicine. They dared to mess with the Chu family's business, so I am now messing with theirs. The Chu family? Look here, we have no involvement in businesses outside hunting magical beasts. And we're bound by a contract. If broken, would need to pay a huge fine, so we cannot quit even if you threaten us. How much are these fines? You'll pay for them. Yuan said. You'll pay for our fine? That's ridiculous. If not, he'll give you a real excuse to not work anymore, by killing you until you lose your ability to cultivate. He calmly threatened, leaving them speechless. The players trembled in fear upon hearing Yuan's words, which were definitely effective. They exchanged glances with each other and, without uttering a word, nodded at each other. All right, well, quit if you can pay for our fines. It's $1 million for each violation. If Yuan were truly willing to pay for their fines, it would definitely be better than getting killed and losing their ability to cultivate, as they would be able to change employers. $1 million each, right? Yuan retrieved a random heaven-grade treasure and showed it to them. Although heaven-grade treasures have gone down significantly in price, at least compared to when Yuan sold the frozen jade zither, as they're becoming more accessible, they can still be fetched for over $10 million with ease. You can keep the change. Also, if I find out that any of you were involved with messing with the Chu family, he'll hunt you down not just in cultivation online but also on Earth, so this is your last chance to come clean. Yuan said as he handed the treasure to the one who seemed to be the leader of the group. I swear we're not involved. I don't know about the other teams, but we're definitely clean. Yuan nodded and said, also, if you're still working for the Qin family after this, you'll die before you even realize it. We wouldn't dare. Before you leave, tell me about the other hunting teams. Yuan then said. I have their schedule and hunting grounds all listed here. The leader of the group handed Yuan a jade slip that contained all sorts of useful information that allowed him to hunt the others down more efficiently. Thank you. Yuan left shortly after. While Yuan went hunting down the other teams, the group of 11 players immediately went to sell the heaven-grade treasure on CO player auctions. The treasure was sold in under 1 hour for $15 million. Over the next several days, Yuan traveled all over the third heaven and bribed all of the Qin family's monster hunting teams to quit. Those who refused to accept his bribes were threatened with death, and the rude ones were beaten until they were on the verge of death, which only took a single punch from him. When the Qin family was suddenly told by their strongest and highest-earning monster hunting team that they'd quit, the Qin family was left baffled and confused. They became even more bewildered when every member of the team paid the fine for breaking the contract. When asked why, the team told the truth, that they were threatened by a powerful cultivator to quit working for the Qin family or have their cultivations crippled. Soon, more and more teams from their monster hunting business stopped working with them. Fuck. Which bastard is responsible for this? And why are they doing this? Qin Mulan, the head of the Qin family, slammed his table in anger, causing it to split in two. For it to happen right after Chu Weiyang was caught. I don't think this is a coincidence. Qin Long, his eldest son, said with a pondering expression on his face. Chapter 1550 Messing with the Qin Family, 3? Chapter 1550 Messing with the Qin Family, 3, 1550 Messing with the Qin Family, 3? So the Chu family is involved in this, huh? But how did they acquire information on all of our monster hunting teams? Qin Mulan pondered out loud. I'd wager one of our own teams betrayed us, providing the Chu family with the information they needed. But for them to resort to hiring a spirit king, they must be quite desperate. Qin Long said. Longer, he'll leave this troublemaker in your hands. Qin Mulan said to his son. I will crush this bastard for daring to mess with my Qin family. Qin Long nodded with a cold expression on his face. Meanwhile, after Yuan made all of the Qin family's monster hunting teams quit, he made his way to Yun City, where their dungeon hunting team was residing in the 8-Point Hotel. Due to how rare dungeons typically were, most businesses put most of their resources into one team. The Qin family's dungeon team consisted of 30 players, all of whom were between Spirit Grandmaster and Spirit Lord. When Yuan arrived, he used Divine Sense to scout the hotel and immediately found 20 players with the Qin family's identification token. According to the intel provided by some of the monster hunting teams, all of the members of the dungeon team stayed at the same hotel. Are the others offline or scouting? Well, it doesn't matter. Yuan pondered what he should do with them. Sometime later, he forced his way into one of the rooms through the window. Inside, 4 players were looking at a large map together. Who the fuck are you? Yuan's intrusion immediately alerted them because he made no effort to be stealthy. They swiftly pulled out their weapons and pointed them at Yuan. Calm down, I'm not here to hurt you. Yuan calmly raised his hands as if to show that he was harmless. Then why are you here? One of them asked with a suspicious frown. I'm here to make you quit working for the Qin family. I'll even pay for whatever fine you may incur for breaking the contract. What? And why are you doing this? I have some beef with the Qin family, that's all. So what do you say? I say, screw off. The 4 players in the room suddenly pounced at Yuan with their weapons flying. However, Yuan didn't even bother dodging their attacks and used his body to block them. What the fuck? The players were shocked when their weapons couldn't penetrate Yuan's skin, much less injure him. It felt like they were trying to cut metal with a butter knife. It's pointless. You won't be able to kill me even if I went to sleep right now. Anyway, I'll give you one more chance to keep your life. Quit working for the Qin family or die to me with a chance of becoming a cripple. Yuan stood before them like a domineering warlord, his aura so intense it made the players gasping for breath. We will quit, they eventually said. All right. One more thing. Are you guys by any chance responsible for bullying the Chu family? Yuan suddenly asked. The Chu family? And no. Well, we had nothing to do with that, right? I have no idea what you're talking about. These players suddenly became nervous and it was written all over their faces. Is that so? Yuan suddenly pulled out the Grail of Truth, which was already emitting a bright light. Sorry, but it looks like my offer will no longer apply to you anymore. Before any of them could even utter a single word, Yuan waved his sleeve with sword aura pouring out. 3 of the players immediately turned into a cloud of blood mist, while one of them only lost an arm. Of course, he survived only because Yuan allowed him to live. Tell me who else was involved with the Chu family? Just the 4 of you or the entire team? Yuan asked him, who was kissing the floor with his buttocks, his face filled with fear as snot and tears flowed down his face. All of us. We were all paid a bonus by the Qin family to mess with the Chu family's business. The player immediately revealed everything. The Grail of Truth had no reaction, meaning he was telling the truth. Is that so? Make sure to tell your buddies to quit, or he'll come after you until you can no longer cultivate. Yuan killed the last player after finishing his sentence. He made his way to the next room shortly after. Who the hell are you? There were 5 players in this room. Yuan went straight to business and said, I'm here to avenge the Chu family. If you don't quit working for the Qin family after I kill you, he'll continue to kill you until you lose your ability to cultivate. If you're unlucky to be crippled after one death, that's too bad. Before any of the players in the room could even respond, Yuan killed all of them with sword aura. He continued doing this until every member of the Qin family's dungeon team was wiped out. However, there were several that weren't at the hotel, so he waited a few hours for them to show up before moving to his next target. After waiting for 6 hours, the rest of the team showed up at the hotel, and all of them were killed after being told to quit working for the Qin family. The Qin family was immediately alerted when Yuan killed the first 4 players. What? He killed all of them because they were involved with the Chu family? This confirms it. That bastard is avenging the Chu family and targeting our businesses and cultivation online. Qin Mulan slammed his desk that was just replaced, destroying it again. Longer, how are you going to deal with this bastard? He turned to look at Qin Long, who had a pondering face. Since he's targeting our businesses, he'll most definitely show up at our medicine store. I'll wait for him there, he said. How are you going to stop him? He's a spirit king. Qin Long said with a frown. So what if he's a spirit king? I have with me a magic talisman that can instantly kill even a spirit emperor. A spirit king is nothing before me. Qin Long laughed out loud. Good. Qin Long nodded. Chapter 1551 Qin Long. Chapter 1551 Qin Long 1551 Qin Long. After he met with his father, Qin Long immediately went to his family's medicine store to wait for Yuan. Welcome, young Master Qin. Are you looking for some medicine today? The workers there greeted Qin Long. This place will be attacked soon. Close down the shop and get everyone out of here, he said to them. What? Who would dare to attack us? The workers there were shocked to hear this news. They had the 10 great families backing. No sane player would dare to offend them, much less attack them. I don't know, but they undoubtedly work for the Chu family. Anyway, get out of here. Things will definitely get messy here. The workers quickly closed down the store and left, leaving Qin Long alone in the store. Sometime later, Yuan arrived at Nightwing City once again. He used divine sense to inspect the place. Only one guy, huh? Looks like he's expecting me. The lone individual at the store had a confident and arrogant air around him as he sat at the entrance like a commander in battle. After pondering for a moment, Yuan casually approached the store without hiding his presence. Qin Long immediately noticed him due to his mask and said, So, you're the bastard that's been trying to ruin my family's business, huh? How much did the Chu family pay you? They'll triple it if you stab them in the back. Who said anything about getting paid? I'm doing this without any payment. Qin Long frowned at this unexpected information and said, Do you even know who you're messing with? We have 2 of the 10 great families backing us. Once we figure out your identity, you can kiss your life goodbye. Is that so? Then I'll make it easy for you. Yuan spoke as he reached for his mask and removed it, revealing his handsome face to Qin Long. Why you? Player Yuan. Qin Long immediately recognized him. It's been Player Yuan this entire time? I should have realized this sooner. Qin Long nearly facepalmed. Qin Long was aware that Chu Liuxiang had left the family to live with Yuan, so it should have been obvious that he would be the one messing with them when they said he was a spirit king. Did Chu Liuxiang ask you to do this? Qin Long asked. No, I am doing this because I owe the Chu family. You must be from the Qin family. What do you think you can achieve by yourself? You'll find out soon enough, bastard. Qin Long sneered in disdain. Had always wanted to deal with Yuan for stealing Chu Liuxiang from him, but he couldn't find a way to do so since Yuan lived inside the Dragon Spiral Mountain and barely interacted with other players making it difficult to track him. Yuan smiled and said, You seem awfully confident. Is that thing in your pocket really that powerful? Qin Long's expression immediately darkened after realizing Yuan was aware of his magic talisman. Judging by its spiritual energy, is it a magic talisman? The same one you gave to Chu Wuyang? Yuan continued. Qin Long immediately retrieved the magic talisman from his robe and pointed it at Yuan. So what if you know about it? It's too late to run. I only need half a second to activate it and then you'll go boom. Before I kill you, let me ask you something. Yuan calmly nodded with a carefree smile, seemingly unfazed by his threat. How far have you gotten with Chu Liuxiang? He asked. You don't need to concern yourself with our relationship, but if you really need to know, we're very intimate with each other. Qin Long's entire face twisted in anger, his face flushed red. If one's glare could kill, his was definitely intensive enough to commit mass murder. Why are you looking at me like I stole your lover? She was mine to begin with. You were the one using underhanded tactics trying to steal her from me. Yuan casually shrugged. Omicronim, silence you bastard. I've had my sights on her for years. So what? You were never fated to be with her. Simple as that. And you are fated to die here. Die for me, you bastard. Yuan could tell that Qin Long had begun pouring his spiritual energy into the magic talisman and activated sword aura. Before Qin Long could fully activate the magic talisman, his entire arm was severed by Yuan's sword aura. Qin Long fell back while screaming. Think about our surroundings. Using such a powerful item in the middle of a city would be disastrous. Yuan shook his head. If they were not in a bustling city surrounded by people, Yuan would have let Qin Long use the magic talisman on him. Unfortunately, the magic talisman was simply too strong and had the capability to level the entire city. Yuan collected the magic talisman and tossed it into his spatial ring. He turned to look at Qin Long and said, Any more tricks up your sleeve? If not, I'll kill you now. You'll pay for this, player Yuan. I'll be waiting. Yuan casually flicked his arm, decapitating Qin Long with sword aura. After killing Qin Long, Yuan destroyed the entire building before him so the Qin family could no longer use it for business. His action shocked everyone around him, but nobody dared to call for help. By the time the city guards arrived, Yuan had long left the city. Now that I've dealt with the Qin family's business, let's wait a little to see how they'll react. Yuan logged off for the day and notified the Chu family of the situation. I'm sorry, father. I couldn't even activate my magic talisman because he used some invisible skill. Qin Long also notified his father of his failures. What happened to our store? By the time I returned, it had turned to rubble. He sighed. Bang. Qin Mulan slammed his desk, destroying it. A moment of silence filled the room before Qin Mulan spoke in a grim voice. He'll contact the Walker's family and the Gu family to see if there's anything they can do about our situation. Qin Mulan contacted them shortly later. Player Yuan? Sorry, but there's nothing we can do against him in Cultivation Online. The Walker's family refused to deal with Yuan while he was inside Cultivation Online. They knew that he was essentially impossible to defeat, and fighting him would only result in their loss. The Gu family, however, did not immediately refuse to help the Qin family. If you can provide us with a solid plan to deal with player Yuan, we will assist you. Thus, the Qin family proceeded to spend the next several hours planning. Player Yuan is helping the Chu family, right? Why don't we just attack all of their businesses at once? There's no way he could stop all of us at once. The Chu family have already changed their operations, and without Chu Wuyang, we won't be able to locate them fast enough. How will attacking the Chu family help us defeat player Yuan? That only enrage him even more. Player Yuan is a spirit king. There are probably fewer than 10 spirit kings even amongst the top players. It's impossible to defeat him. How about we borrow the power of NPCs? There are plenty of spirit king cultivators in the third heaven. Actually, I know of a faction in the third heaven that specializes in assassinations. Qin Long suddenly said. That's great and all, but what if he's already returned to the fourth heaven by then? Won't we be wasting our money? Despite spending hours on it, the Qin family could not find a solid plan to deal with Yuan. In the end, they could only wait for Yuan to leave the third heaven before they resumed their businesses. Sometime later, Qin Long returned to Cultivation Online. Since he died inside Nightwing City, he respawned in the same city. Fucking player Yuan. I will definitely have my revenge the next time I see him. Qin Long looked at the sky and cursed out loud. How are you going to do that? A familiar voice suddenly resounded behind Qin Long, greatly startling him. He swiftly turned around to see a familiar face standing behind him. Player Yuan? Why are you here? He cried out loud. I heard someone calling my name, so I came here to see who it was, Yuan said sarcastically. He continued, Anyway, I see that you still have your cultivation. How many times do you think he'll have to kill you before you lose the ability to cultivate? Why you can't be serious. Qin Long had a terrified expression on his face after realizing what Yuan wanted to do to him. He's planning on spawn camping me? Due to how respawning works in Cultivation Online, it was possible to trap someone within a city and kill them repeatedly. However, this was only done by the foulest players and was heavily frowned upon by the player base. Do you not value your reputation? Once word gets out that you're a spawn camper, your reputation will sink to the bottom. Would they even believe such rumors? Yuan smiled. The next moment, Qin Long found himself staring at the death notification. Fuck. I must get out of the city before he finds me again. Qin Long immediately ran for the teleportation device upon respawning in a random area within the city. However, before he could even travel a block, Yuan appeared before him like a ghost. What? How did you find me already? Qin Long cried out loud, his eyes filled with shock. Yuan merely responded with a silent smile before killing him for the third time. Chapter 1552 Vengeful Slaughtering Formation. Chapter 1552 Vengeful Slaughtering Formation 1552 Vengeful Slaughtering Formation. After Yuan killed him for the third time, Qin Long had to wait 24 hours before respawning. When an avatar is killed, it requires time to be reconstructed. While in this state, the player's consciousness will be transported to a black room with a countdown. Fuck. How did he find me so fast? We don't respawn in the same location and it's randomized, so there's no way he could have predicted my respawn point. He must have some sort of technique that allows him to find me quickly. Qin Long quickly came to this conclusion, but he could do nothing about it. Sure enough, Yuan found him using divine sense, which is already powerful enough to cover the entire city and more. While Qin Long waited for his death cooldown to disappear, he started spreading rumors of Yuan being a spawn camper online, spamming this information as far and wide as possible. Since spawn campers are widely despised and frowned upon by most players, it didn't take long for people to respond. However, Qin Long quickly became irritated when nobody believed him. Player Yuan spawn camped you in the third heaven? He left for the fourth heaven already. I'm sure player Yuan has much better things to do than spawn camp a nobody. Let's say he did spawn camp you for argument's sake. I bet you deserved it. One thing I've learned about player Yuan is that he isn't the type to provoke others without reason. Qin Long was left fuming after seeing countless people mock him in the comments of his discussions. It also reminded him of Yuan's words before getting killed. 24 hours have passed and Qin Long's death cooldown disappeared, but he didn't immediately log back onto and waited an extra day before doing so. However, when he logged back in and respawned, Qin Long was terrified by a particular change that occurred within his body. "And my cultivation is gone," he cried out loud. When a player dies, one of three things can happen. 1. Nothing changes. 2. They lose all their cultivation and must start from scratch. Lastly, and arguably the worst outcome, they lose the ability to cultivate entirely, becoming a cripple. Players around the world collaborated to determine the probabilities of these three outcomes. With contributions from hundreds of millions of players, the chances of each outcome were finally revealed. Upon experiencing death, there was a 96% chance that nothing would happen to the player. There was a 3% chance they would lose all of their cultivation, and there was a 1% chance they would lose the ability to cultivate entirely. Although the probability of becoming a cripple was low, it was not zero, and millions of players around the world have already lost their ability to cultivate. Of course, losing all of one's cultivation was still better than becoming a cripple. In the meantime, he spoke to his father about his situation. Of course, Qin Long was unhappy to learn that his son had lost all his cultivation, wasting the fortune they'd spent on resources to boost his cultivation. But there was no use crying over spilled milk. 3 days later, seeing that Qin Long hadn't returned yet, Yuan left the city and made his way back to the stairway to heaven to return to the fourth heaven. "Welcome back, master. Are you returning to the fourth heaven?" Tian asked him. "Yes." "Okay." Tian created a staircase straight to the fourth heaven for him. "Thank you." Yuan ascended, returning to the fourth heaven shortly after. Upon returning to the fourth heaven, Yuan contacted Dong Yi. "Dong Yi, I need you to find someone for me. They are an escaped immortal from the Nine Heavens Eternal Grotto. This immortal has the shrouded physique. Apparently he was spotted in the fourth heaven. Of course, I shall find him even if it's the last thing I do." Dong Yi immediately agreed without asking for his reason for wanting to find this immortal. "Thank you. Now, I have some time to spare while waiting for Dong Yi. What should I do in the meantime?" Yuan pondered out loud. After thinking for some time, he remembered Xingma telling him about the Pavilion of Knowledge, which may have information on the immortal monarch. Let's give them a visit with Ximeli. With his next destination in mind, Yuan went to find Ximeli at the Cultivator's Haven. When he arrived, he went directly to their training rooms. However, they were all closed. He didn't want to disturb them, so he used his divine sense to peek inside Ximeli's room to see if she was busy. Ximeli was partially transformed inside her training room. Her body emitted a profound and oppressive aura as she sat in a cultivating position. The walls around her were also heavily damaged, even though they could resist attacks from spirit sovereigns without any problem. Seeing this, Yuan didn't dare to disturb her and waited for her to finish. Several days later, Yuan suddenly received a notification. So he's finally decided to return to cultivation online, huh? A few seconds after this notification, another notification appeared before him. Meanwhile, when Qin Long finally logged into cultivation online for the first time in a week, his presence triggered the formation. The formation located Qin Long's precise location and activated in less than 3 seconds. And before Qin Long could even fully see his surroundings, his body was bombarded by powerful attacks that would instantly obliterate even a spirit king. So even if he still had his original cultivation, it wouldn't have saved him. Qin Long had only managed to take a single breath in cultivation online before being killed, and he wasn't even able to release the breath he took in. Even after his death, it took a long minute before Qin Long comprehended that had just been killed for the 4th time. What the fuck? He actually waited an entire week for me? Qin Long was more shocked by Yuan's stubbornness than his sudden death. Does he really intend to spawn camp me until our family stops messing with the Chu family? I don't even have the authority to make such a call. He cried out loud. Only the family head, his father, had the authority to fulfill Yuan's demand, but he did not want to embarrass himself further, putting him in a perplexed situation. Chapter 1553 Purple Sea. Chapter 1553 Purple Sea 1553 Purple Sea. After his death, Qin Long immediately logged off and tried to cultivate. He sighed in relief after realizing that he could still cultivate properly. Even though the chances of becoming a cripple were only 1%, it was enough to stress any player out, much less someone like Qin Long. Damn it. What should I do? I cannot keep letting him get away with this. At this rate, he'll really cripple me. After pondering for a long moment, Qin Long suddenly thought of a good idea. Since nobody believes me that player Yuan is spawn killing me, I shall let the entire world witness it. If there were thousands of players watching, I doubt player Yuan would dare to kill me in front of so many people. This will allow me to get away safely. He went online and started another campaign. This time he advertised his own demise, telling people to visit Nightwing City if they wish to see player Yuan spawn camping him. Sure enough, his antics were effective, and many players visited Nightwing City over the next several days. However, many of these players just wanted to see player Yuan and couldn't care less about Qin Long being killed. News agencies also sent people to witness player Yuan's spawn killing, as it would give them something to talk about for a while. Soon, tens of thousands of players could be seen wandering Nightwing City. 4 days after his last death, Qin Long logged back into. Nightwing City was bustling with activity, with players thronging every corner, most of them hoping to meet player Yuan. After respawning, Qin Long shouted out loud, "Witness me!" The players around him instantly turned their heads to look at Qin Long, and just as they finished turning their heads, several powerful attacks descended from the sky to attack Qin Long, instantly killing him. Qin Long was shocked by his swift death. He could have never anticipated Yuan would be so ruthless as to kill him without hesitation despite the presence of so many players. As for the players, they immediately looked at the sky, expecting to see Yuan hovering above them. However, they were left puzzled when nobody was in the air where the attacks were shot from. Where's player Yuan? I don't see him. Did he leave already? That quickly? No way. I don't think he was even here. Ah. What kind of scam is this? I knew this Qin Long was trying to slander player Yuan all along, but I was still expecting something. How foolish of me. Who was the one that just got killed? I couldn't even see his appearance clearly before he died. Probably some poor soul paid to die so that they could sell this nonsense to us. Qin Long quickly became a laughingstock once news of what had transpired within Nightwing City spread on the internet. Qin Long, eldest son of the Qin family, slanders player Yuan. Player Yuan is innocent. Many articles about Qin Long quickly surfaced, spreading through the community like wildfire. Qin Mulan quickly learned of Qin Long's embarrassing situation and summoned him. Longer. What the fuck are you doing? I asked you to take care of player Yuan, but you dragged our family name through the mud instead. You're a laughingstock right now. Qin Mulan slammed his desk, destroying it. Now that his reputation had hit rock bottom, Qin Long no longer cared about losing some more and revealed the entire situation to his father. Player Yuan threatened to continue killing me until I lose my ability to cultivate or we stop messing with the Chu family. At this rate, I will never be able to play cultivation online properly again. Please do something about this, father. Let's just forget about the Chu family. They're not worth our attention anymore. Qin Long appeared to be on the verge of tears as he revealed this information. Qin Mulan wore a deep frown on his face after hearing this and said, "Our Qin family and the Chu family have been at war with each other for many generations. How will we face our ancestors if we give up? Would essentially be acknowledging our defeat. We will not stop until the Chu family is completely bankrupted. As for your situation, just take a break from cultivation online to focus on your real cultivation. I doubt player Yuan will spawn camp you forever. He will eventually have to give up and return to doing whatever he's doing. Also, he has an upcoming faction war with the Fiery Garden of Hell. He won't be able to play cultivation online during that time, so you can use that time to leave the Nightwing City. Qin Long looked at his father with wide eyes. Why, you're a genius, father. I completely forgot about his upcoming faction war. Alright, I'll do that and take a break from cultivation online. Qin Mulan nodded and said, I will try to do something about those mocking you online. While I won't be able to censor everything, it'll definitely reduce the amount of people talking about you. Thank you, father. I apologize for this failure. I will definitely make it up to you one day. With that, Qin Long stopped logging onto cultivation online and focused on his cultivation on Earth. Qin Mulan quickly started paying people to censor anything negative about Qin Long, slowing down the attention he was receiving. Meanwhile, Yuan knocked on the door to Shimei's training room once he noticed she had finished her cultivation and appeared to be taking a break. Shimei walked to the door and she muttered to herself, I'm pretty sure I still have plenty of time left in his place. Yuan? You're back? She was pleasantly surprised to see him standing in front of her training room. Yes, and I plan on visiting the Pavilion of Knowledge, operated by the Shen family. Since your father had a connection with them, I was wondering if you want to come with me. Of course. And I hope you didn't wait too long for me. Wasn't too bad. They left the cultivator's haven together shortly after. Do you know where the Pavilion of Knowledge is? Shimei asked him. No, I don't, but someone might. He asked Dong Yi about the Pavilion of Knowledge. The Pavilion of Knowledge is located on a secluded island in the middle of the Purple Sea, north of Qin City. Purple Sea, huh? All right. Yuan used the teleportation formation to travel to Qin City and from there, traveled north for several days until he encountered a purple-colored sea. I wasn't expecting a literal purple-colored sea. Shimei muttered with a surprised look on her face. This was her first time seeing something so unusual before. With their divine sense, they could see thousands of fishermen at the docks. Hey, what are they doing? Shimei, who had never seen fishermen before, asked. They're fishermen and they are fishing, trying to catch the fish in the water, Yuan explained. Fishing? What an odd thing to do. Want to take a closer look? Yuan then asked. Yes. She immediately nodded, her face filled with anticipation. They entered the docks and watched the fishermen. Sometime later, Shimei approached one of the fishermen and asked, What are you trying to catch? Chem? Are you new to the Purple Sea? The fisherman asked. Yes. This is my first time visiting this place, she nodded. Well, there's only one thing we can catch from the Purple Sea, violet tuna. However, they're exceedingly rare. Even though there are thousands of us fishing every day around the clock, only around 10 of us will catch a single violet tuna for the entire day. Why are they so rare? And why are they so desirable? Well, for one, they're incredibly delicious. But that's not the main reason they're so coveted. Violet tuna are infused with potent spiritual energy, and consuming one can significantly boost a cultivator's strength. They're not just a delicacy, they're a treasure for anyone seeking to enhance their cultivation, said the fisherman. What's the history behind the purple-colored sea? Yuan suddenly asked. Legend has it that a mighty dragon was slain near these waters, and its purple blood seeped into the sea, forever staining it with its vibrant hue, said the fisherman. A dragon with purple blood? That would be the ancient galaxy dragon. They're incredibly rare and powerful even among the dragon race. I heard less than 10 of them have existed since ancient times. Shimei muttered after hearing this information. Do you know anything about the Pavilion of Knowledge? Yuan then asked. Those weirdos that live in the middle of the Purple Sea? I know they live in the middle of the Purple Sea and rarely leave their place. There's also a rumor that says they will reward you if you can provide them with useful information they don't already know. I see. Thank you for the information. Yuan suddenly pointed 2 fingers at the Purple Sea. Then, with a gesture, he fished out a sizable purple-colored fish from the water with his spiritual energy. This shocked every fisherman there and left them speechless. Once the fish hovered before Yuan, he said, For taking the time to speak with us. The fisherman accepted the violet tuna with a dazed look on his face, unsure how to react. But before he could say anything, Yuan and Shimei flew away, disappearing into the horizon. Chapter 1554 Pavilion of Knowledge. Chapter 1554 Pavilion of Knowledge. 1554 Pavilion of Knowledge. How did that young man do that? Divine sense shouldn't work in the Purple Sea. The fishermen were shocked by what Yuan had done. The Purple Sea had a special property that blocked all divine sense from peeking underneath the water's surface, hence why nobody there could repeat what Yuan did despite being cultivators themselves. Meanwhile, Yuan and Shimeli continued flying north for several days until they could see a tall silhouette on the horizon. We're almost there. Shimeli's voice was brimming with excitement, as this would mark her first encounter with another dragon clan outside the ancient dragon city. After a few more hours of flying, they finally arrived at the Pavilion of Knowledge, situated in the center of a large island. The Pavilion of Knowledge was an imposing, tower-like structure with a spiraling design that ascended towards the heavens, its peak lost amidst the clouds. The island looked like any tropical island, but magical beasts wandered freely. Most of them were around Spirit Emperor level with a few at Spirit Sovereign level. However, before they could even reach the island, Yuan and Shimeli stopped when they noticed a figure approaching them from the island. This individual was a middle-aged man with blue hair and azure-colored eyes who boasted the cultivation of spirit enlightenment. Welcome to the Pavilion of Knowledge. I am Xian Wei, one of the 7 scroll elders here. How can we assist you today? When Xian Wei spoke, his gaze was mainly on Shimeli, almost as if he was aware of her dragon bloodline. I'm here to learn more about the Immortal Monarch, Yuan said. Xian Wei turned to look at him with a frown and replied, You want information on the Immortal Monarch? Not only are you not worthy but you won't even be able to afford it. Shimeli frowned and said, Who are you to decide whether he's worthy or not? Any information on the Immortal Monarch is sacred and priceless, and our Pavilion of Knowledge does not accept money or treasures for payment. The only payment we accept is information of equal value, and there's no way in hell a nobody from the 4th heaven would have information as valuable as information on the Immortal Monarch. Xian Wei sneered. You're making a lot of assumptions. For a nobody. Shimeli sneered back. Xian Wei frowned and said, I showed you respect by personally coming out to greet you because I could tell you're of dragon bloodline, and this is how you treat me? You can leave now. The Pavilion of Knowledge will not serve you. If you want to show respect, you should have sent the head of this place to greet me. What is a mere servant's greeting worth? Shimeli shook her head, seemingly genuinely disappointed. Xian Wei's face darkened after being mocked as a servant by Shimeli. If you think I want harm you because we have dragon blood flowing through our veins, you're sorely mistaken, Junior. Xian Wei roared. Oh yeah. I'd love to see you try. Shimeli retrieved Furious Dragon and went into a combative position. Seeing this, Xian Wei merely released his cultivation base. How brazen of you, Junior. This senior shall teach you a lesson your parents never taught you today. Yuan shook his head at their situation before looking at the Pavilion of Knowledge and speaking. To the senior watching this, are you sure you want to let them continue? Her surname is Shi and her father's name is Shi Shengma. After hearing this information, the individual who had been watching them from the peak of the Pavilion of Knowledge experienced a great shock, causing him to fall back on his chair. Stop it, Xian Wei. A loud voice boomed the next moment, instantly halting Xian Wei's movements. He turned to look at the Pavilion of Knowledge with a puzzled expression on his face, and a silhouette approached them from the tower before he could even utter a word. This silhouette belonged to an elderly man with long white hair, a short blue beard and azure-colored eyes shimmering with profound knowledge. He donned a black outfit adorned with a blue scroll-shaped symbol. Grandfather, what are you doing out here? And why did you stop me from punishing these rude juniors? However, the old man completely ignored him and respectfully bowed to Shimeli. I apologize for my grandson's lack of manners, young lady. May I have your name? Shimeli. Who are you, old man? Why you? How dare you address the master of the Pavilion of Knowledge as old man? Just shut up for a moment. The old man snapped at him before returning to smile at Shimeli. As he said, I am the master of the Pavilion of Knowledge and the previous patriarch of the Shen family who operates the Pavilion of Knowledge within the 4th heaven. My name is Xian Kuan. Is it true that your father's name is Shi Shengma? He then asked. That's right. You know my father? Xian Kuan nodded and said, I didn't just know him. Our Shen family used to serve the Shi family and his father, long before they entered the ancient dragon city. What? But they haven't left the ancient dragon city for millions of years. Why would they come out now? Xian Wei cried out loud after hearing this. Since you're out here, does that mean your father is also? Xian Kuan asked, his eyes flickered with a hint of anticipation. No. I left the ancient dragon city by myself to travel with Yuan. Shimeli shook her head. Oh, is that so? Xian Kuan immediately became dejected. I was hoping to speak with him again after so long. Anyway, let's go somewhere more comfortable and continue our conversation there, shall we? Shimeli nodded. Yuan and Shi Meili proceeded to follow Shen Kun to the Pavilion of Knowledge. Grandfather, are you sure we can trust them? What if they're impersonating the Shi family? Xian Wei asked him through divine sense. Shut up, you idiot. You've never seen someone from the Shi family, so you wouldn't know, but I can tell that the young lady is definitely from the Shi family. I am confident enough to put my life on the line. I also expect you to give her a proper apology. Why are you treating her like you still serve the Shi family? We haven't worked for them since they went into hiding within the ancient dragon city. Xian Wei couldn't comprehend why they had to lower their heads to someone they used to work for. I bet our current standing isn't lower than the Shi family. You better watch your mouth, Xian Wei. If you think I won't hit you because you're my grandson, you can test me. Our Xian family has served the Shi family for generations since ancient times. Even if we no longer work for them, we will always put them above us. Xian Wei could not understand Shen Kun's point of view and decided to remain silent. Once they arrived at the Pavilion of Knowledge, Shen Kun led Yuan and Shi Meili to one of the guest rooms for esteemed guests. Xian Wei, go bring them some tea. You can use my tea leaves. What? We have servants for that. Xian Wei wore a look of disbelief on his face. How could he, one of the 7 scroll elders, stoop as low as serving tea to guests? His position was only below that of his father and Shen Kun. Don't make me repeat myself. Shen Kun narrowed his eyes with a cold glint in them. Xian Wei could only swallow his frustration and listen to Shen Kun's command. I guess I wasn't wrong to call you a servant. Shi Meili chuckled, rubbing salt on his wounds. Shen Wei's body trembled in anger and he stopped walking for a second, but he didn't say anything and quickly left. Don't tease him too much, young lady. He has a short temper. Shen Kun smiled. That's what he gets for looking down on Yuan, she sneered. Yuan, you must be her friend. Shen Kun turned to look at Yuan, who appeared unremarkable at a glance, but once he tried to peek deeper, Shen Kun was surprised that even he couldn't inspect Yuan's body, who was only a spirit king. Thank you for calling out to me earlier. I would no longer be able to face my ancestors in the future if someone from our Shen family had harmed a member of the Shi family. He's more than just a friend to me, Senior Shen. He's essentially a member of our family, with my parents' approval, of course. What? His Majesty accepted a human into the Shi family? That's unthinkable. Shen Kun stared at her with wide eyes. He could still vividly recall Shi Shengmo's hatred for humans, which forced his family to escape into the ancient dragon city. You don't have to believe me. Yuan, show him your robe and ring. Shi Meili winked at him. Yuan nodded and retrieved the golden dragon robe and the dragon spatial ring, showing it to Shen Kun, who stood up from shock. The dragon spatial ring? And even the golden dragon robe? Heavens! I never thought I would see these precious items in a human's possession. He exclaimed. You have no idea how much he helped my Shi family. If it weren't for him, the Azure Dragon family would have ended our family's lineage. Shi Meili sighed. The Azure Dragon family? Those ambitious bastards tried to do something like that? Though I can't say I'm surprised. They have always been hungry for power and authority, even before they moved to the ancient dragon city. Shen Kun shook his head at this information. Chapter 1555 Pavilion of Knowledge 2. Chapter 1555 Pavilion of Knowledge 2. 1555 Pavilion of Knowledge 2. Young Master, on behalf of the Shen family, thank you for helping the Shi family. Shen Kun respectfully lowered his head at Yuan. Don't even mention it. I only did what was natural. Yuan smiled. Anyway, you're here for information on the Immortal Monarch, correct? Shen Kun then asked. Yes, that's correct. I see. Unfortunately, as Xian Wei had already said, any information on the Immortal Monarch is incredibly sacred to us, so even if you are with the Shi family, I cannot give you any information without payment. This is also a rule of the Pavilion of Knowledge I cannot break as its master. No, I completely understand. I never thought it was going to be free anyway. If you provide me with new information on the Immortal Monarch, I will be willing to share information on the Immortal Monarch that you may not be aware of. That sounds fair, correct? Yuan said. Shen Kun looked at Yuan with a doubtful gaze. Information on the Immortal Monarch was incredibly rare and not something that could be found within the fourth heaven in this day and age after all. However, he only remained doubtful and didn't outright dismiss Yuan as a fraud. By the way, how does the Pavilion of Knowledge verify the information they're given? Shi Meili suddenly asked. We have a treasure called the Heavenly Scroll of Validity. It can tell whether someone is being genuine or not, explained Shen Kuan. Sounds like my Grail of Truth. Yuan thought inwardly. While the Heavenly Scroll of Validity and the Grail of Truth had similar functions, they were actually very different. The Grail of Truth only had the capability to tell whether someone was lying or not, so it wouldn't be able to detect anything deeper than that. As for the Heavenly Scroll of Validity, it directly reads one's soul to tell if they are being genuine or not. If you truly wish to purchase information on the Immortal Monarch, we will need to verify your information before the Heavenly Scroll of Validity. Shen Kuan continued. I'll do it. Yuan nodded. Let's do it after we drink some tea. I'd like to chat more with the young lady here as well. I don't mind. Shen Wei returned sometime later with 3 cups of tea. He placed the tea on the table, immediately turned around, and walked back out to the door without uttering a single word, clearly still upset that he was treated like a servant. Wait. Shen Kuan suddenly stopped him. The young lady here hasn't received an apology from you yet. Why do I have to apologize to her? I did nothing wrong. Shen Wei roared. Do I really have to repeat myself? Shen Kuan frowned, his domineering aura growing more noticeable. Shen Wei's entire body trembled in anger, but he didn't dare to talk back. He turned to Shimeli and reluctantly lowered his head before stiffly speaking, I'm sorry. Apology accepted. Once Yuan sat across from him, Shen Kuan activated the Heavenly Scroll of Validity. From this point forth, the Heavenly Scroll of Validity will enter your soul to determine whether your information is genuine or not. Let's start with something simple. What is your name? Yuan. The very next moment, the Heavenly Scroll of Validity emitted a golden glow that made the room appear divine. Good. Now lie to me. Do you know Shimeli? No. The Heavenly Scroll of Validity did not glow and released an imposing pressure that filled the room, as though a judge had just sentenced someone to death. Last test. I won't ask you anything. Just tell me something. It doesn't have to be real either. Hearing such words, Yuan showed a mysterious smile on his face as he spoke. The Immortal Monarch is still alive. Shen Kuan's eyes widened with surprise after hearing Yuan's information. As someone with millenniums of experience verifying information, he could usually tell when someone was farting or not, even without the Heavenly Scroll of Validity's help. Yet, he somehow found Yuan's information to be real even though it shouldn't be possible. Shen Kuan immediately turned to look at the Heavenly Scroll of Validity for its response. He wanted it to permeate the room with its golden glow so badly, but he knew that it wasn't going to happen, as that would have severe and significant implications. A moment later, the room brightened as the Heavenly Scroll of Validity glowed gold. What? Shen Kuan stood from his chair and slammed the table, looking like he'd just witnessed his ancestors crawling out of their graves. After standing there for a long minute with a bewildered look on his face, Shen Kuan looked at Yuan and asked in a trembling voice, Where did you get this information? However, Yuan merely shrugged and said, Who knows, but the information I just gave you should be pretty valuable, right? I wonder if it's valuable enough for you to give me what I want. Shen Kuan's jaw dropped after hearing his words. He was rendered completely speechless, and his mind was already in a mess from the earlier information. Eventually he took a deep breath and sighed, Very well. I shall give you all the information we have on the Immortal Monarch. But honestly, the information you gave us is already more valuable than everything we've gathered since our foundation. That's fine. Follow me. Shen Kuan tried to walk to the door, but he stumbled and fell on the floor like an old man who suddenly had his cane taken away. Sorry, but can you give me a moment? He asked with an embarrassed look on his face. Take your time. Yuan nodded with a smile. Shen Kuan remained seated on the floor for several minutes, contemplating the information that the Immortal Monarch was still alive out there somewhere. The Immortal Monarch is alive? The Immortal Monarch is alive. Why hasn't he made an appearance for so long? What about the 9 Divine Supremes? The primordial phoenix's body burned so intensely that she would set entire stars ablaze just by being in its vicinity. She was rumored to have true immortality, where she would not die even if her soul perished. She also disappeared alongside the Immortal Monarch. The third supreme entity that followed the Immortal Monarch was also the most mysterious and unique of the 9 Divine Supremes. Eater of Stars, once known as a natural calamity that devoured stars and everything unfortunate enough to enter its path as though it was her only purpose. We don't know her name or how the immortal monarch tamed an entity like her, but she was the most obedient of the 9 divine supremes. Almost everything about her is a mystery. From her origins to her true strength, they all remained unknown even after the immortal monarch's disappearance. The Eater of Stars disappeared alongside the immortal monarch but was spotted 900,000 years later. She had returned to being the abyss calamity she was once infamous for, devouring the stars and everything in the galaxy more intensely than before. However, there hasn't been any news of her since her initial re-emergence. Yuan's body trembled after learning that Eater of Stars had returned to her life before she met the immortal monarch, most likely because had perished and could no longer satisfy her insatiable hunger. He looked to the ceiling with a woeful frown on his face, wondering if she was still living such a harsh life in the starry sky. If she's still out there, I need to find her as soon as possible so she can live a normal life again. Yuan clenched his fists until they bled, his eyes filled with newfound determination. However, in order to traverse the starry sky without the help of treasures, one must at least be a golden immortal. As for treasures that allow one to traverse the starry sky, most of them are insanely expensive. The immortal monarch and these 3 supreme entities traveled the divine heavens for thousands of years with one goal: to stop the war between humans and beasts and start their coexistence. The first intervention by the immortal monarch was between the blood mastiffs and humans. Due to their highly desirable blood mastiffs were hunted by humans to near extinction. As revenge for his bloodline, the strongest blood mastiff, known as the Crimson Terror, went on a carnage and destroyed hundreds of human settlements and consumed countless humans. In order to calm the Crimson Terror, the immortal monarch had to fight with it. Their fight lasted 700 years until the Crimson Terror was defeated. After their fight ended, the Crimson Terror swore loyalty to the immortal monarch and became the 4th 9 divine supreme. Crimson Terror, he was the Lord's father. Yuan recalled what the Lord told him not long ago. The immortal monarch and the Great One weren't on good terms with each other? Now that's another piece of information that I did not expect. Yuan muttered after hearing this information. He thought he had some kind of fate with the Great One at the beginning of his journey in cultivation online, but after their last interaction, their relationship with each other had become somewhat clouded. With this new information, his future relationship with the Great One became even more cloudy. It's a pity that we might be enemies in the future. I even learned Dragon's Gaze from him in this life. Yuan sighed inwardly. However, he didn't immediately consider the Great One an enemy, as there were still many uncertain things. She merely continued, "One day the immortal monarch and the Great One had a massive fight that shook the divine heavens, and they became sworn enemies since that day." Yuan became speechless. Chapter 1557 Chronicles of the Immortal Monarch, 2. Chapter 1557 Chronicles of the Immortal Monarch, 2. 1557 Chronicles of the Immortal Monarch, 2. Sworn enemies with the Great One? Now that's an achievement one can brag about. She merely chuckled at this information. The Great One was a supreme entity that stood at the pinnacle of the world. To be noticed by him was an honor beyond measure, and to be considered a sworn enemy was a mark of unparalleled distinction. Of course, whether that was a good thing or not was debatable. What do you think caused the fight? She merely looked at Yuan. He shrugged. I can't imagine. From my few encounters with him, I can tell that he's a very prideful and fulfilled individual. I cannot imagine someone like him would fight over something simple. She merely then said, I always thought the dragons of origin were close to each other since they were the first dragons to come into existence and might see each other as siblings, but I guess I was too naive. Don't siblings tend to argue with each other? Yuan, drawing from his own experiences, mused, although most of my time with you Ro was pleasant, there were moments when we had fought in the past. So, I would understand it if the dragons of origin had similar experiences. Sibling fights, huh? I totally understand. I'm always butting heads with Morong. She merely chuckled. She continued reading the next scroll a moment later. After securing the Dragon Clan's approval, the Immortal Monarch set his sights on the Heavenly White Tiger Clan, a formidable yet relatively small clan renowned for their ferocity and tumultuous nature. Ranked as the 7th most powerful clan, their influence belied their size. The males in particular were notorious for their insatiable lust, a trait embedded deeply within their bloodline, which often led them into conflict with other clans. Although the females were not as lustful as the males, they were known to go to extreme lengths to acquire a partner once they fancied someone. Due to their nature, they did not make a good first impression, and the entire clan received a massive beating from Dragon Goddess Yayo when the males tried to go after her and the females tried to get overly friendly with the Immortal Monarch. Their leader, the Heavenly White Tiger God, was particularly affected. He was beaten so severely that he lost all sexual desire, becoming as pure and chaste as a monk. He would also become the fifth of the 9 Divine Supremes. Che. The Heavenly White Tigers. She merely sucked her teeth in an annoyed manner after being reminded of her encounter with Bai Tao. The dragon goddess should have just killed all of them back then, she casually commented. She looked at Yuan and continued, by the way, how's Feng Feng's recovery? I've been feeding her my blood almost every day. Her appearance has changed a lot, but I still don't know when she'll return. I see. Hopefully she'll return to us soon. She merely said before returning to the scroll. During his campaign to receive the approval of all major beast clans, the Immortal Monarch would occasionally hunt the surviving demons that had managed to flee the war. Demons, huh? I never got to see one. They must be all gone by now, right? What a pity. She merely muttered. Yuan smiled and said, you should be glad that you never got to experience their disgusting presence. Unfortunately, demons still exist in this world, and mine. They're just in hiding now. Have you seen one? She then asked. He nodded, yes, and more than just one, unfortunately. Then did you fight them? They're supposedly immortal, with an indestructible body. Their body is definitely destructive. They just have insane recovery, so any damage they take would instantly recover, and unless you get rid of their entire being in one go, they could fully regenerate even from a small chunk of flesh. The only reliable method of getting rid of them would be demon sealing techniques and sacred flames. Unless you have one of these abilities, you don't want to meet a demon. He'll keep that in mind, she said. She picked up another scroll and continued, after traveling for hundreds of years, the Immortal Monarch met the 6th of the 9 Divine Supreme, a powerful divine beast that did not belong to any clan, the divine Qin Long crane. The divine Qin Long crane was a one-of-kind mythical being said to bring immense luck to anyone for the rest of their life if they are lucky enough to see it, and most people live their whole life not seeing it, including immortals that have lived for millions of years. Yet, the divine Qin Long crane had personally appeared before the Immortal Monarch and requested to follow him. The divine Qin Long crane, huh? This is my first time hearing about such a creature. She merely commented afterward. Me too, Yuan said. Is this information helping you regain your memories? She then asked. No, nothing's coming up. Maybe you'll recall something after hearing a little more. We still have thousands of scrolls to go through, after all. She moved on to the next scroll. The 7th to join the 9 Divine Supremes was the Celestial Turtle, a divine beast said to have the strongest and most durable body in the divine heaven. The Celestial Turtle has a massive body that was many times larger than the sun, and due to its size, it could only live in the starry sky. Rumors say that the Immortal Monarch had built a home for himself and the other Divine Supremes somewhere on the back of the Celestial Turtle, but nobody could confirm this rumor. The 8th of the 9 Divine Supreme was the Shadow Dweller, a divine beast that can enter and traverse shadows. Not much is known about this Divine Supreme due to its lack of presence. The 9th and final of the 9 Divine Supreme is unknown. Nobody but the other Divine Supremes and the Immortal Monarch himself have seen the 9th Divine Supreme's beast form. She merely closed the scroll. There's not much information about the 9 Divine Supremes here. Maybe they have their own category, she said afterward. Chapter 1558 Chronicles of the Immortal Monarch, 3. Chapter 1558 Chronicles of the Immortal Monarch, 3. 1558 Chronicles of the Immortal Monarch, 3. Although there were still thousands of scrolls left to be read, there were only a few scrolls left that focused on the Immortal Monarch's journey. The other scrolls were dedicated to miscellaneous information on the Immortal Monarch and his companions. After spending thousands of years convincing the beast clans that humans could coexist with them, the Immortal Monarch helped some of the beast clans settle around human settlements, allowing them to experience it firsthand. Of course, the humans weren't happy about having beasts as neighbors, but there wasn't anything they could do to get rid of them, as the beast clans were all protected by the Immortal Monarch. Someone even the Celestial Emperor had to be respectful around. Eventually, after many decades of coexistence, humans and beasts grew accustomed to each other's presence. Gradually, they began to converse and build a sense of camaraderie, transforming from wary neighbors to unlikely allies. Unfortunately, not every beast clan managed to coexist with humans. The Immortal Monarch did not force this on either side and allowed the beast clans that did not want to be around humans to return to their original settlement. Eventually, the notion of humans coexisting with beasts became commonplace. Many beast clans lived alongside humans, collaborating to build thriving cities and communities, breaking down the barriers that once separated them. The Immortal Monarch, content with the harmony he had fostered, ceased his role as mediator between humans and beasts and vanished from the world. For several thousand years, his whereabouts and activities remained a mystery. When he finally reappeared several thousand years later, he seemed like a different person, transformed by the unknown experiences during his absence. His demeanor had shifted significantly. He appeared more serious, less approachable, and carried an aura of profound gravity. The cause of this transformation was unknown, but it was unmistakable. Not long after his return, the Immortal Monarch sought a private audience with the Celestial Emperor. At that time, no one thought much of his audience with the Celestial Emperor, as they were known to be quite friendly and had many conversations before. However, this time was different. For reasons unknown to anyone but the two, their conversation sparked a fierce battle that lasted 7 days straight. The Celestial Palace was flipped upside down and turned to ruins as a result. The Celestial Emperor survived, albeit heavily injured from the battle. As for the Immortal Monarch, he vanished once more, now branded a criminal. Despite this, the Celestial Emperor refrained from hunting him down, wary of the Immortal Monarch's immense power and the might of his 9 divine supremes. However, he couldn't shake the feeling that it was definitely a fight that caused it. Suddenly, a particular term appeared inside Yuan's head. Outer God, he recalled the Black Death uttering this word for some reason. What if there are existences out there that defy the laws of this world, with power that surpasses the 9 divine supremes? He wondered inwardly. It wouldn't be the first time something extraordinary existed beyond their knowledge. Take Earth and Cultivation Online for example. If it weren't for Cultivation Online, Yuan might never have discovered the existence of the 9 heavens, a realm far beyond their world's understanding and reach. The primordial phoenix didn't spend as much time as the others with the Immortal Monarch and only showed up occasionally whenever she got bored or was needed, like that time when the Immortal Monarch visited the Phoenix clan. The primordial phoenix is highly competitive and is often seen butting heads with dragon goddess Yao. Eater of Stars was next on Shimeli's reading list, but her shelf was quite empty when compared to the others with one exception, the 9th member of the 9 divine supreme. Most of the information on the Eater of Stars was about her past before she met the Immortal Monarch. Besides Dragon Goddess Yao, she spent the most time with the Immortal Monarch, to the point where it was nearly impossible to see the Immortal Monarch without her somewhere around him. The Eater of Stars was especially protective of the Immortal Monarch. If she perceived any threat to him, no matter how minor, she would immediately become aggressive, ready to unleash her wrath on anyone who dared to harm him. Nobody but the 9 divine supreme knew this. But the Immortal Monarch kept her hunger satisfied with his own blood, so it was only natural for the Eater of Stars to be protective of him since he was the reason she could live a normal life. After finishing the scrolls on Eater of Stars, Crimson Terror was next. Despite the nickname he was given, Crimson Terror wasn't born a killer. In fact, he disliked violence and would always find a method to avoid it. Unfortunately, in order to protect his own clan from the greedy humans, he was forced to kill until one day, he lost his mind and became nothing but a crazed killer. If the Immortal Monarch hadn't snapped him out of it, the Crimson Terror would have inflicted significant damage not to just human society but the beast clans as well. After being tamed by the Immortal Monarch, Crimson Terror traveled the world in his human form to fix the damage had done to the innocent. Up next, we have the Heavenly White Tiger God. Just as Shimeli reached for a scroll, the door opened and Xuan walked inside. "How's everything so far?" he asked them. "I've learned a lot of new things from here and we're just getting started," Yuan said. "I'm glad. Anyway, I have a new guest who needs my attention, so I will not be available for a little." "This guest must be fairly important," Shimeli causally said. "Yes. This individual is not only from the upper heavens, but she's also from the immortal clans that are closely related to the immortal monarch. Someone from the immortal clans? Yuan raised an eyebrow, his interest piqued. Which clan is she from? The Heavenly White Tiger clan. Yuan narrowed his eyes at this information. Could it be her? Yuan recalled the woman who showed up to protect Bai Shutao. She Meili also had similar thoughts. For her to show up in this place, she must be looking for information. Yuan thought to himself. Then I'll let you return to your study now. Xian Kun closed the door and went downstairs to meet this individual while Yuan and Shi Meili returned to reading scrolls. Even if this individual turned out to be the same woman they met, they had no reason to be in her business and decided to just ignore it for the time being. Chapter 1560 Bai Ning. Chapter 1560 Bai Ning. 1560 Bai Ning. Once Xian Kun arrived at the reception area, he could see a beautiful young woman standing with Xian Wei, who had a respectful smile on his face, a stark contrast to the way he greeted Yuan and Shi Meili. Welcome to the Pavilion of Knowledge, Lady Bai Ning. How can we assist you today? Xian Kun respectfully bowed to her. Bai Ning looked at him nonchalantly and said, I heard that this is the place to go for information. Is that correct? That depends on the type of information you're looking for, but generally, yes. We have information on pretty much everything, including information that is normally only available in the upper heavens. Xian Kun spoke with confidence. The Pavilion of Knowledge gathered information from not only the fourth heaven but also all the other heavens. They achieved this by contacting other information-gathering agencies in the upper heavens and sharing information with each other. Good. I am looking for someone, Bai Ning then said. She continued as Xian Kun raised an eyebrow. This individual has long golden hair and golden eyes, a unique scent that does not belong to any beast clan that I know of, but his aura did resemble that of the dragon clan slightly. He wields a golden soul weapon shaped like a spear that can easily penetrate spiritual energy. He might have a habit of wearing masks. Oh, he's also immensely talented, being able to fight even spirit enlightenment despite being a mere spirit king. Xian Kun wore a look of disbelief on his face after hearing the description of someone who sounded like pure fiction to him. A spirit king that can fight spirit enlightenment? That doesn't sound feasible at all. Xian Wei subconsciously uttered this after hearing such a ridiculous claim. Bai Ning narrowed her eyes at him and sneered, Are you calling me a liar? And not at all. But how can you be sure this information is correct? Because I encountered and fought him myself in the third heaven. Not only did he match my strength, but he also humiliated my little brother, who had to unseal his cultivation to spirit enlightenment. Even then it wasn't enough. A spirit king from the third heaven was able to match you? That sounds ludicrous, but since it's coming from you. Xian Kun swallowed nervously. He began pondering seriously, but nobody that fit the description came to mind. There's no way a genius like that would go unnoticed. In that case, he must be a newcomer. Do you have any more information on this individual? Xian Kun asked. Bai Ning recalled every little detail Bai Shutao told her to Xian Kun, who listened with great interest. I see. Truly a fascinating individual. As for that spear you mentioned, once Xian Kun was given more details on the soul weapon wielded by this individual, he immediately thought about the dragon's soul, something the Shi family had in their possession even before they entered the ancient dragon city. Furthermore, Xian Kun hesitated for a moment before continuing, the immortal monarch, he's alive. What did you just say? Bai Ning and Xian Wei stared at him with wide eyes, their faces filled with shock. Chapter 1561 Bai Ning, 2. Chapter 1561 Bai Ning, 2. 1561 Bai Ning, 2. Bai Ning's entire being froze like a stone statue after being told that the immortal monarch was alive. Her body trembled after a moment of silence, and she suddenly reached for Xian Kun's collars. Once she got a hold of his robes, she lifted him into the air and roared, I swear to God if you're messing with me. Xian Kun was startled by her sudden aggression and hastily said, it's true. This information has already been verified through the heavenly scroll of validity. The chances of this information being fake are almost zero. Who gave you this information? She growled. Xian Kun hesitated to reveal this information since the Pavilion of Knowledge prided itself on its confidentiality. If he revealed a customer's name, it would set a dangerous precedent and, if exposed, would sink their reputation to the bottom of the sea. Please forgive me, but I cannot reveal a client's information, especially if that individual may have a connection with the Immortal Monarch. I beg for your understanding, Lady Bai. Xuan said, his body soaked in cold sweat. Bai Ning froze again and after a moment of silence released Xuan and said, My apologies. I got a little too excited after learning of the information. You're right. This individual likely has connections with the Immortal Monarch to have such valuable information. I almost made a rash judgment there. Xuan sighed in relief and said, Thank you for your understanding. Although I cannot reveal this individual's information to you, I can speak with him and see if he would be willing to meet you. Bai Ning's eyes flickered after hearing this and immediately nodded, Please do. I must speak with this individual no matter what. If there's anything I can do that would increase the chances of meeting him, let me know. Xuan pondered for a moment before responding, I'm not sure, but he seemed very interested in information related to the Immortal Monarch. If you have information to share with him, he'd have a reason to speak with you. Information on the Immortal Monarch, right? I have plenty of that. Bai Ning quickly agreed. As an Immortal Monarch enthusiast, Bai Ning collected all sorts of information on the Immortal Monarch, and being part of an immortal clan, she has access to information not available to the public. What about the individual you wanted to find? Xuan suddenly asked. I can deal with him later. This takes priority, she said. Then I'll be back. You can rest in the guest room in the meantime. Xuan said. It's him? You make it sound like you'll be able to contact this person soon. Well, he is currently in the Pavilion of Knowledge after all. What did you say? Bai Ning was pleasantly surprised by this news. You don't mean? Xuan swallowed nervously as he thought of their recent rude guests. Xuan left shortly after, leaving Xuan and Bai Ning alone. After a moment of silence, Bai Ning nodded her head, and she retrieved a jade slip from her spatial ring before handing it to him. This is my personal logbook. I logged all of my information on the Immortal Monarch here. You can borrow it for now. Yuan accepted the jade slip and said, Thank you. As a token of our new friendship and to further develop our trust in each other, I would like you to have this. Yuan retrieved an object from his spatial ring and offered it to her. This is? Bai Ning raised her eyebrows at the vial of blood before her with a puzzled face. Why was he giving her blood and who does it belong to? However, not wanting to be rude, Bai Ning accepted it without any question. Thank you? She said in a stiff voice. The vial was the length of her finger, and only a fourth of it contained blood. Was nice meeting you. Then I'll go back upstairs now. Yuan turned around and left before Bai Ning could question him about the blood. Once Yuan left, Bai Ning opened the vial and took a sniff of the blood. Her senses immediately went crazy from the sweet scent of the blood, and her body trembled uncontrollably from excitement. What a profound scent. Whose blood does it belong to? Even Xuan could smell it from afar, and the scent made his mouth watery. I don't know, but I really want to taste it for some reason. Bai Ning swallowed nervously. Usually, she'd never even think about tasting a stranger's blood, but the sweet scent was too enticing and compelled her to do so. I'll just taste a drop to see if I can identify it. Bai Ning carefully retrieved a drop of blood from the vial with her chi manifestation and placed it in her mouth. The instant the drop of blood touched her tongue, an overwhelming sensation surged through Bai Ning's entire being, as if she had been touched by the divine itself, baptized in an ethereal purity that transcended all comprehension. Good heavens! She cried out loud and fell to her knees, nearly dropping the vial of blood in the process. What the? Lady Bai, are you okay? Did that bastard poison you? Xuan exclaimed in a terrified voice after seeing her drastic reaction. Bai Ning didn't respond to him and merely stared toward the sky with a dazed look on her face. Lady Bai? Xuan swallowed nervously. It's so fucking delicious. She muttered in a dumbfounded voice. Excuse me? This otherworldly taste that's unlike anything I've tasted before, this to die for taste. Only one individual could make a divine beast fall to their knees with the delicious taste of their blood, the Immortal Monarch. This blood definitely belongs to the Immortal Monarch. Bai Ning exclaimed as she came to a realization. The Immortal Monarch's blood? Impossible. Xian Wei cried out loud, his voice filled with disbelief. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Chapter 1563 Immortal Monarch's Blood. Chapter 1563 Immortal Monarch's Blood 1563 Immortal Monarch's Blood. Both Xian Wei and Shen Kuan looked as though they just witnessed their ancestor's ghost after hearing Bai Ning's words. Lady Bai, I don't mean to doubt you and I apologize in advance for saying this, but could you be mistaken? Shen Kuan said in a nervous voice. Mistaken? Impossible. Although I have never tasted the Immortal Monarch's blood before, I have read enough about it to recognize it if I ever tasted it. This blood is, without a shadow of a doubt, the Immortal Monarch's blood, and I am willing to bet my life on it. Bai Ning spoke with confidence. If you're that certain? Shen Kuan stared at the vial of blood and swallowed nervously. He didn't wholly believe Bai Ning, but it wasn't as though he could make her use the scroll of validity, as that would basically tell her he didn't trust her. However, if there's even 1% that the blood genuinely belonged to the Immortal Monarch, he wanted it. Lady Bai, this may be imprudent of me and allow me to apologize in advance again, but, no. Bai Ning responded before he could even finish his sentence. She turned to glare at him and continued, You were going to ask me to give you some of this blood, right? I refuse. I don't care what you have to offer me. I won't give you even a single drop. Shen Kuan began sweating profusely at her words, but he still remained hopeful. I beg you, Lady Bai. You have about a dozen drops of blood inside that vial. Can't you just spare a single drop for this old man? It would mean the world to me. Bai Ning sneered and said, I'll think about it if you can find me the individual who attacked Bai Shutao. Shen Kun's jaw dropped. After a moment of silence he sighed out loud, I'll be blunt, Lady Bai. It's almost impossible to find someone like that with so little information. The only thing we know about this individual is that he's a genius who can fight multiple realms above his own cultivation and that he wields a golden spear that can penetrate spiritual energy. And there's a high probability that he's from the Dragon Clan. Bai Ning quickly added. Shen Kuan sighed again, I will ask my informants in the third heaven to see if they have any information. It might take a couple of days for a response. That's fine. I plan on staying here a little longer anyway. Bai Ning nodded as she looked at the upper floors of the tower. Meanwhile, Yuan returned to Shimei's side. How'd it go? Did she recognize you? Shimei asked. He shook his head. No, but I got the feeling that she finds me familiar. What did you talk about? It was over pretty fast too. It wasn't much. She asked me how I knew about the Immortal Monarch being alive. So, did you lie to her? No, I didn't lie. I didn't even tell her anything. He casually shrugged. Shimei raised an eyebrow. Is that so? Shen Kuan wore a dejected expression on his face, looking like he'd been rejected by the love of his life. After leaving the Pavilion of Knowledge, Yuan asked Dong Yi for directions to the escaped immortal. If you fly southwest, you should arrive at a small island in 3 days. The escaped immortal is hiding there. Dong Yi said. All right. Without hesitation, Yuan started flying toward the southwest. 2.5 days later, he could see a small island on the horizon. This island had a small mountain on it, and it was surrounded by purple trees. Yuan didn't want to alert the immortal with his divine sense, so he restrained from using it on the island. However, Dong Yi was a different story as his divine sense would be too powerful for the immortal to sense. Where is he? Yuan asked. Hidden in one of the mountain caves. They've hidden their presence and are trying to recover spiritual energy. If you want to fight them, now is the best time. Dong Yi said. Yuan nodded and took a moment to prepare himself. After taking a deep breath, he retrieved Starry Abyss before releasing his aura. He purposefully avoided using number 1 under heaven to see how much he could handle without her. Omicron, come out, he roared. The instant the immortal sensed Yuan's presence and powerful aura, they immediately thought about escaping. However, they stopped when they realized that Yuan was alone and was a mere spirit king. After a moment of pondering, the immortal emerged from their hiding spot to confront him. Yuan narrowed his eyes at the immortal's appearance, shrouded by a mysterious mist, looking like a cloud that could block divine sense. If divine sense doesn't work, let's try divine gaze, Xuan used Divine Gaze and to his surprise he could see through the mist, but the Immortal's true appearance remained as a silhouette. The figure inside the mist narrowed their eyes after sensing Yuan's Divine Gaze. A mere spirit king using Divine Gaze only those in the Divine Realm can use? Who is this kid? The Immortal wondered inwardly. Hey, why don't you show me your real appearance? Xuan suddenly spoke. And why would I do that? The Immortal spoke in a hoarse voice. I'm just curious. I want to see my opponent before fighting them. You want to fight me? A mere mortal? Do you even know who I am? The Immortal expected many things from Xuan, but a fight was not one of them. They were also confident that Xuan was not suppressing his cultivation and was a genuine spirit king. Yes, I do. You're an immortal who escaped the 9-heaven eternal grotto, right? And you still want to fight me despite knowing that? Why are you trying to kill yourself? The Immortal couldn't believe what they were hearing. Who said anything about wanting to die? You may be an immortal, but your cultivation is currently restricted to the Divine King realm. Xuan smiled. The Immortal was speechless.